This story begins with the Lun country receiving a message from the eastern island that this time their candidate got an A rank, so don't let them envy them. The men were angry that they just got a player of this level and immediately began to brag about it. They don't seem to care about their lives at all since they decided to compete with them. If it weren't for the difficult situation in which the country of Lun was currently in, they would have razed the eastern island to the ground long ago, sparing no one. At the moment, the situation was not at all in their favor, and their last hope was in Su Xiao. The system advised the young man not to open the window, but he did not listen to anyone and did it anyway. When he picked up the remote control, the system advised him not to turn on the TV, and if he was bored, then let him just play with the cat. But the boy did not understand how some animal could replace watching a TV show. Some time ago, our hero found himself in a world called Mom's Note. The person who ends up there can use any of his skills, but they are chosen randomly. Suddenly, a message appeared that Su Xiao had been randomly selected for an SSS rank skill called Natural Rebel. The young man did not understand what kind of level this was. The system explained that he had 99 Zin of Rebellion. This means that he has the right to break any rules and will not be judged or looked at askance for it. Our hero really liked it and thought it was the best gift for him. Now everyone needs to be very careful around him. Plus, no one from the country of Lun had ever possessed such a level. After all, the probability of getting it is 1 in 100 million. A couple of days ago, a person with an A rank was chosen from the eastern island, and therefore they began to be ahead of the Lun country. But at the moment, everything has changed dramatically. Meanwhile, at the meeting, people watched through the screen what the young man was doing. The man stated that Su Xiao was only 18 years old and too young. If he fails this test, their country may be invaded. They've lost a couple of times in a row, so this can't happen again. This meant that if the representative from the country could not win, then his homeland would have to feel the strange talk. Such intrusions can result in a large number of casualties. Countries with small populations will be in danger of being wiped out from the face of the earth. One of the men said that they did not know what their player's abilities were, so they can try to convey a message to him and ask. Another objected that they could only tell him something 3 times, so they couldn't just waste attempts. Plus, it's a live broadcast. All they can do is watch. Suddenly, a message popped up telling the Eastern Island that they would have an A-rank representative this time, so don't let them envy them. Those present were extremely outraged by this because they had just acquired a person of this level and immediately began to brag. If it were not for the difficult situation of the country, they would have destroyed them long ago. At the moment, everything is turning out absolutely not in their favor, so the last hope remains with Su Xiao. Meanwhile, our hero found some kind of note on the table and decided to read what was written there. It stated that his mother would return in a week. He must read all the rules she wrote and follow them. It was impossible to open the window. Steaks should not be fried. Don't turn on the light in the toilet. Do not use the watch as an alarm clock. Don't open the door to anyone. Take care of the cat, but do not give it any name. The animal must be fed noodles, and in the evening, always keep it with you and not leave it alone. Do not turn on the TV, and if there is nothing to do, then play with the cat. The young man did not care at all about these rules, so he immediately went to the window and opened the curtains. People who watched him via live broadcast were surprised that he did this. After all, the first rule stated that the window cannot be opened. His appearance left no doubt that he was a rebel. The guy looked very self-confident and was not afraid to go against the rules. It is an incredible logic of thinking to break one of the rules from the first minutes. After some time, the United States of America, Arab countries, and many others sent a message to their representatives that the first rule was wrong. After a message appeared that the first rule turned out to be incorrect, and the country of Lun remains. One of the players did not understand how this participant realized so quickly that the first rule was a mistake. The man should never have lost, so he immediately ran to open the window. After which he solemnly asked about the other candidates, whether they were staying. But the young man was suddenly hit by a powerful stream of hot air. The young man lost part of the hair on his head, but he was very lucky that he used the heavenly shield almost in time. Some other candidates were not so successful. They received injuries that were not very serious and could be treated. The country of Lun should not be so happy about its victory, because it could still turn out quite the opposite. A full hour had passed since that moment, and none of the candidates had made any further progress. Our hero was very hungry, so he decided to go see what was in the refrigerator. On one of the shelves, he found 5 pieces of meat, and he needed to survive for a whole week. He absolutely did not want to go hungry, so he decided to cook himself some noodles. But the 7th rule said that it was necessary to feed the cat. What will she eat if he cooks noodles for himself? The commentators decided that the end had come for the Lun country, because Sue wanted to break the rules again. Or maybe they would get lucky again. When the young man was preparing food for himself, which was intended for the cat, the animal looked at him and meowed loudly. The guy stroked her and said that from now on her name will be Euridina. A message immediately appeared that a player from the country of Lun violated the 6th rule, which stated that the cat cannot be given a name. Observers noted that Sue is afraid of absolutely nothing. Our hero did not care whether the animal turned into someone. In the world of Mom's Note, the mortality rate was very high. Strange conversations cannot be simply conveyed. Su Xiao is a rebel, so he must always be protected. No matter how bad the result is, the young man need not worry about anything. The young man thought it was simply wonderful to have a skill that allowed him to fear absolutely nothing. In the country of Lun, they discussed that this was definitely the end, since he began to eat noodles, which means that all hope was gradually disappearing. The young man then started getting cat food, even though the rules said she couldn't be fed it. The country of Lun noted that this cat looks scary, which means nothing good should be expected from it. On the eastern island, they were happy that the guy was one step away from failure. Then our hero stretched and said that after a good meal, you need to clean up after yourself. Meanwhile, various countries were discussing how Lun country was very unlucky in having a representative. The cat has become so scary, which means the end will definitely come to him soon. When strange conversations come to his homeland again, it will cease to exist. Meanwhile, in the conference room of Lun country, they were discussing that at first they thought that Xiao was a genius when he broke the first rule, and it turned out to be the right move. But now it became clear to them that it was a big mistake. There was no longer any hope left. And a fool would understand that the cat plays a very important role, and if they suddenly lose it, it will be very difficult. People hoped that the boy would become the savior of their country. But it seems he is still too young for this. They cannot take complete control of everything, but they can give him one hint so that the guy pays attention to the cat. Meanwhile, the countdown has begun for 6 countries that will plunge into the world of strange conversations. One of the men did not understand why these countries were so quickly attacked by strange conversations. But then it dawned on him that other players decided to follow Xiao's example and broke the first rule. Some representatives used their skills to avoid takeover, while others, on the contrary, were unable to resist it. From this it turned out that some rivals were nevertheless eliminated. Players from major countries have lost precious margin for error, and this speeds up the process of spreading strange conversations. Since this rule was found to be true, why did Su Xiao not receive punishment? Perhaps his talent lies in some kind of powerful immunity, or something like that. From all this, it turned out that they might not send him a hint that could only be used 3 times. The man really hoped that the young man would still show his abilities and return the country of Lun to its former glory. So he agreed with the proposal, not to use the hint. A player from the United States of America, John, thought that according to the 2nd rule, meat must be eaten raw. But perhaps it is wrong. Another player was thinking that he had already lost his shield, and he couldn't make another mistake, since it would immediately end. Pak Puchin from South Korea also did not understand what to do, but he was very hungry. In the country of Lun, it was discussed that some candidates had dropped out, so everyone who remained was afraid to touch the stakes. It was very interesting to see what Su Xiao would do. They were also incredibly scared, but they hoped that he would do everything right. Our hero brought the meat to full readiness and began to eat it. The United States of America noted that he was completely crazy and broke the rules again. In the country of Lun, they noted that he ate a steak and nothing happened, which means this rule is also wrong. The Eastern Island was indignant that he could really get away with it again. The US hoped that the management would tell the players that meat can be eaten and not just watched. Meanwhile, the cat behind our hero's back seems to be up to something. Therefore, the Lun country panicked that their representative needed to be warned about this as soon as possible in order for him to stay away from her. After some time, countries began sending tips to their representatives. There were also those who did not want to break the rules. After Xiao, they no longer dared to cook the steaks until they were fully cooked, so they ate them raw. Lun country noted that the second rule also turned out to be wrong. They didn't believe in Su Xiao and ended up in a bad situation. The system reported again that some countries were plunging into the world of strange conversations. One of the players didn't understand how Su managed to figure out which rule was wrong again. He has an S-rank level, but he cannot resist him. Their competition has just begun, and he really hopes that the young man will last at least a couple more days. Our hero received a message from the leadership that it is necessary to beware of the cat, because it is dangerous, and that 6 more countries followed his example, but were eliminated. Our hero did not think that 6 countries would leave in just half a day. If they followed his example, it means they also opened the window. They seem to like to repeat everything after him, so he will show them even more of what needs to be done. When the young man picked up the cat, observers did not understand what he was doing, because the leaders told him to stay away from it. Is he really crazy, or does he have a memory like a fish? Then the young man opened the door and, throwing the cat into the dark toilet, closed it, after which he said that without Uridina he felt much calmer. Observers were dumbfounded by his actions. Then Su picked up the TV remote control because no cat could replace it. But the 10th rule said that the TV cannot be turned on. Observers began to panic that he had decided to break the rules again, and their hearts would stop so soon. But again, nothing seems to have happened. Everyone thought that he was planning to do something. But it seems the young man simply decided to rest. Some couldn't wait for Su Xiao to finally die. Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the Eastern Island, they did not understand how this guy guessed which rules were correct and which were incorrect. Lun country was already ahead of the United States of America. Representative John from the US made no progress at all. Its leadership did not understand what to do. Perhaps it was worth giving him a hint already, but in general, a TV is not such a necessity, so you can do without it. Meanwhile, the representative from Dunbala, whose name was Miku, was also tired and decided to relax in front of the TV. But suddenly, a bright glow began to appear from the screen, which began to envelop this candidate. Immediately, there was a message that Miku was plunging into a world of strange conversations. Observers noted that the TV still cannot be turned on, and it turns out that the 10th rule is correct. But why then was the candidate of the Lun country not punished? The window also couldn't be opened, but absolutely nothing happened to it. It seems that all this cannot be explained simply by luck. Perhaps he also has an A-rank skill, like the candidate from the Eastern Island. This option was most similar to the truth, since among the skills of this level there is a talent, thanks to which you can avoid punishment several times. It turned out that the player from the country of Lun had already used all 3 margins for error. Now I was wondering what he would do next. One day passed, and the Eastern Island and Paokai were already at their limit, as they did not repeat Su Xiao and strictly followed the rules. It was very pleasant to watch their envy. Then commentators drew attention to the fact that our hero went to the toilet, and this was logical, because he had not gone there all day. As soon as he opened the door, the cat instantly darted back into the room. Everyone noted that it was very scary there, so have the player turn on the light. But others said that according to the third rule, the lights should not be turned on. Therefore, it is unclear who would dare to enter such a creepy toilet. But Sue, as always, decided not to pay attention to any rules and suddenly turned on the light. The young man noticed the inscription, "Die" on the wall, and wondered if it was Urodina who tried. The guy started scolding her and saying that she shouldn't behave like that and leave such inscriptions. Let her not complain next time if he makes a pot out of her for such antics. He then threw her back into the toilet and ordered her to quickly clean up what she had scrawled. Otherwise, the young man will cook it for lunch tomorrow. The observers thought that Xiao would be scared when he saw something like this, but they could not imagine that he would start hitting the cat. He was very brave, but the cat looked so cute, and his punches were quite strong. They then noticed that Ji Chuangan was barely holding back. Is he really going to be able to go into the toilet with the lights off? It would be better not to post this on the internet, as it all looks very funny. The young man ran into the bathroom and abruptly sat down on the toilet. Observers noted that the smell seemed to be audible even through the live broadcast. Suddenly, a glow began to appear around him, and people came to the conclusion that it seemed that his end had come. But then a protective shell appeared around him. Apparently, this was his special skill. Apparently, the immunity was one time only, because the attacks continued, and gradually the protective sphere was broken. When he pressed the switch, people did not understand why he did it, because it was better to continue to adhere to the rules. In the conference room on the Eastern Island, they were discussing that Chuangan had gotten rid of the attacks of strange words, and that was a very good thing. Apparently, he has an A-rank talent, which is on par with Su Xiao. Meanwhile, Ji was thinking that he only had one opportunity left to break the rules. Then they noticed that our hero took off his watch and went into the bedroom with it. But the fourth rule stated that the watch should not be used as an alarm clock. Apparently, he decided to break the rules again. The young man wanted to hang the clock at the head of the bed and set the time, but he noticed that the ugly woman was looking at him strangely, and then remembered that it seems he needs to take his cat with him before going to bed. But the young man did not take her into the bedroom and simply slammed the door in her face. As for the other player, it seems that this rule turned out to be correct, and his cat's reaction did not change. But Su Xiao's animal remained outside. Something was probably going to happen now. Our hero fell onto the bed and almost instantly fell into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, a creature began to emerge from the ugly woman's body. The observers were so scared that they almost shit their pants. It all looked very scary. The monster approached the door of the bedroom where Sue was and began scratching at it with its long claws. Observers noted that she had been standing like this for 3 whole hours and seemed to have no intention of entering the room. She doesn't move at all. One of the commentators can't do this anymore and would rather go to bed. But suddenly the creature screamed, and everyone's heart almost stopped from fright. One of them said that the dream disappeared. Now he is full of energy. Mom asked why he didn't sleep in the middle of the night, so he showed her the monster, and now the two of them are shaking with horror. Half an hour later, absolutely nothing had changed, and observers noted that if Su Xiao had not abused the cat, he would have lived happily ever after. Meanwhile, in the conference room, the Lun countries were discussing the current situation and thinking about what should happen next. One of them suggested replaying all the events again. If the problem is in the cat itself, then actions with this animal should also have consequences for representatives from other countries. In the conference room of the Eastern Island, it was discussed that changes in the cat should be caused due to action. They will see how long the Lun country can hold out. When the world of strange words overtakes them again, they will have a very difficult time. The US conference room noted that Sue violated 3 times. He called the cat by name, ate her food, and even left her alone at night. so most likely he must come to an end. In this case, there is no point in his level. If he fails the test, Lun country will be thrown into chaos. In the Pakistana conference room, Xiao, on the contrary, was supported, because if he makes a mistake again, then there will be no new chance. After which, the head said to send a secret message to the country of Lun, so that they know that Pakistan is on their side. The next day, a message appeared in front of Su, and he noted that this was the second time that management had reminded about the danger from the cat. I wonder what they saw yesterday. It said that a woman was climbing out of the animal, so be careful. It became interesting who she was, or what she was like, and in general, how she could have been hiding in the body of Uradina all this time. Even if she is dangerous, as long as he breaks the rules, nothing should happen to him. Because in any other case, he would never have lived to see this day. Coming out of the bedroom, the young man noted that the ugly woman did not look unusual. He then decided to go to the toilet and noticed that it was very clean. Even the scrawled inscription disappeared. I wonder how the Count could cope with this, because she is an animal. It looks like there really is some kind of monster living in it. The young man exclaimed that it was good that he did not take her with him to the bedroom at night, because she only caused problems. Commentators noted that his words actually make sense. When the guy started cooking noodles for himself again, the observers decided that there was nothing wrong with this, because the first time nothing happened, which means everything should continue in the same spirit. Therefore, it is better to go and look at other participants. East Island wondered why Chwangan was still sleeping. Even Suzhou is already preparing his breakfast. The United States of America also did not understand what was happening, because even Pasha from Pakistan woke up. Why did G still continue to lie down? Everyone had some questions. Pasha and Xiao took off their wall clocks to use them as alarm clocks, and they in turn continued to move. Those who remained in the living room stopped walking. From this, it turned out that for those who are currently still in bed, time stopped in the evening. In the world of strange words, if a person cannot understand the passage of time, he may remain there forever. You have 7 days to complete the test. After time, the punishment will be several times more serious than a simple suspension. Such a case has already happened. A player from a major country was too tired, and hundreds of strange conversations descended on his homeland. Literally, in an instant, this great country collapsed. The land and people disappeared as if they had never existed. The country of Lun is glad to hear and see this, so it hopes that everyone else will face the same fate. From all this, it turned out that the fourth rule was both correct and incorrect. When the outside world sends a signal, the player should hear the sound in his ears. So he needs to hurry up and send it. Deciding to follow the example of the United States of America, the Eastern Island, South Korea, and other countries decided to do the same. But unfortunately, as the players awakened one by one, all 3 precious clues for them were wasted. The discussion in the Lun country conference room was that, with the exception of them and Pakistana, everyone else had run out of clues. Now they only have the opportunity to observe, and everything depends only on the abilities of their candidates. But they didn't feel sorry for them at all. After all these countries mocked them when times were hard, so now it was their turn. The U.S. representative read a message about staying away from the cat and doing everything the way Su Xiao does. The man began to freak out that this young man had bypassed him again. He only has an A rank, and he is too defensive. After breakfast, our hero began to go about his business. Unlike other candidates who began to understand the rules in order to understand how to do the right thing, Su was not worried about anything at all, and he was in no hurry. G thought that the 1st, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th rules were correct. The 2nd and 3rd are incorrect, and the 4th is a mixture of the correct and incorrect options. Rules number 5 and 9 may be either true or false, but most likely they are also mixed. But there was a very strange point in the 5th rule. It turned out that you couldn't open the door to strangers, but you could open the door to some neighbor. How can a man be sure that it was his neighbor who came? It was necessary to figure everything out as soon as possible. Usually, if two rules contradict each other, there is a good chance that only one of them is correct. But since this is a world of strange conversations, it is unlikely that anything here can be logical. From all this, it turns out that the fifth and ninth rules are either correct or incorrect. Chuangan could not gather his thoughts and make the right decision. Commentators noted that they even felt sorry for him, because he seems like a good guy. Meanwhile, people had already started knocking on Su Xiao's door, and he asked who came to him. A male voice replied that it was his neighbor and asked him to open the front door for him. When our hero headed for the exit, commentators began to get nervous whether he was sure that this was really a neighbor. One of them even began to turn to the spirits of heaven so that they would take 10 years of his life from him and give it to this guy. But when the young man went outside, there was no one near the house. Observers did not understand what the catch was. But then some terrible otherworldly creature appeared and attacked the young man. Panic began in the conference room of Lun country. They decided that it was all over because Su Xiao had been caught. Therefore, strange conversations about the rules will soon begin, and they will soon come to an end. The spectators on the street were terrified and shouted that they would all die. People don't want to dive into the world of strange conversations. Let someone help them. They might as well just commit suicide and at least die happy. At the conference of the other three countries, everyone rejoiced, because the hopes of the Lun country were shattered and the collapse was about to come. Finally, their last moment has come, and they will personally witness the demise of this country. But the people did not understand why strange conversations had not yet overtaken them, and the picture appeared on the monitor again. Shao apologized because he was attacked, so the broadcast stopped. In fact, he is completely fine. People began to admire him for saying this so easily. He seems to have no sense of fear. They hope that Su will do well. In the USA, they were furious that this guy had once again challenged everyone. He seems to have some very impressive skills. On the Eastern Island, they did not understand what was happening and why strange conversations had not yet begun. They couldn't figure out how it happened because a demon appeared in front of him. Then people decided that they had enough of suffering and would rather look at other candidates. Pukin from South Korea sat on edge and begged for the knocking on the door to stop. Commentators noted that, other than Su Xiao, no one else dared to even approach the door. They did not understand what was happening to the candidate and why he was holding his head. From the outside, it seemed that he had lost his mind. Suddenly, the young man shouted loudly so that no one would knock on the door. Who actually came there, and what does he want from him? Suddenly, the knocking stopped, and people did not understand that it was really possible. A moment later, an unknown magical force began to appear. The guy was so scared that he shit his pants. Observers noted that this was simply disgusting, and one should not be so nervous. I wonder if he can find his courage again, since their Su Xiao is far ahead of him. In the South Korean conference room, they noted that this was the end, since Pukin failed. Our hero ate a hearty meal and sat down on the sofa, saying that the steak was very tasty. But suddenly there was a knock on the door again, and the young man was indignant that it had really returned again. The voice replied that it was a neighbor and he would like to borrow one thing. Commentators asked him not to answer because the voice was very strange and not like his neighbor. The young man thought to himself that the more normal, the worse. This is a different world. How can a neighbor communicate adequately, but he must open the door? But looking out into the street, the young man again saw no one. Then he slammed it sharply and said that this was complete disrespect. He opened the door, but no one attacked. There is absolutely no professionalism. Observers noted that he had some incredible skill, and they were delighted. Meanwhile, Pukin also started knocking on the door again. I wondered if he would dare to open it this time. There is hardly anything to be afraid of, because nothing happened to Xiao. But when the representative of South Korea finally opened it, a magical force began to approach him. In the conference room of his country, a system message immediately appeared, indicating that the participant had failed and was beginning to plunge into the world of strange conversations. They began to panic. People did not understand how the guy could be so mistaken. Strange conversations were already approaching, and he destroyed absolutely all their hopes. Residents tried to avoid the attack and said that there was no need to touch them, because they did not want to discuss the other world. They would really like to move to the country of Lun as soon as possible. In the conference room, the Lun countries noted that Korea had finally received what it deserved. It's a shame that Chwangan didn't get ahead of them, but it's probably worth just waiting a little because it's unlikely that he'll be able to hold out for long. After the liquidation of South Korea, only two small countries remained. In addition to the Lun state, these are Pakistan and the Eastern Island. There was no reaction in the conference room of the United States of America because large countries have much more information about strange conversations, so they are more relaxed about the failures of others. But the world of strange conversations is too complex and varied. No one can completely understand it. There was also no guarantee that the selected candidate would cope with the task. So after a couple of eliminations, players started to be more careful. Meanwhile, the neighbor came again, and from behind the door asked Sue if he had cat food, because he would like to exchange it for food. The commentators didn't understand what was happening. Was it really not enough for him the first two times, and he decided to come again? The young man noted that this time the voice was very cold and disgusting. That's why he thinks it's a neighbor. He replied that the cat had eaten all the food, so let it go away. The voice apologized for disturbing him. People were worried that he knew there was a neighbor, but he still broke the rule that said that sometimes a neighbor might come and need to be given food. The observers then decided to watch other participants. John from the USA opened the door and handed food to his neighbor. Can the ninth rule really be either correct or not? Apparently, there are exceptions with double choice. Chwangan held his head and said that he couldn't hear anything. Could it be that if the doors are not opened, then you can survive? But suddenly, an otherworldly force appeared and attacked him. And now it seems the end has come for the young man. Suddenly, a protective shell appeared around him again, and observers noted that he still had immunity. The guy was very glad that he still had his shield. Otherwise, he would no longer be alive. The commentators decided that he had at least an A rank since the shield worked for the third time. Plus, they still didn't know anything about Su Xiao's capabilities. The guy doesn't follow any rules at all, but always remains safe and sound. This is all very strange, but they are sure that everything will become clear soon. Meanwhile, Susha from the country Lun, Idra from Great Britain, Pasha from Pakistan remained in the game, and also John from the United States of America, Artur from Chuchu, Ji Chwangan from the East Island, and Adolf from Bali. After the participants woke up the next day, they discovered that several new rules had been added to the note Mom left. It was said that a cat can both protect and harm. If she gets mad, it's better to kill her right away. Sometimes a woman may appear in the house. You can talk to her, but you cannot trust her. You cannot rely only on the clock, as the time often gets lost. You can go outside, but watch your shoes. Don't close bedroom doors. There is nothing on the balcony, but you can hear something. If Mom doesn't return after 7 days of absence, then you need to open the door, and everything will end. The new rules were very confusing to the candidates, especially the first two, related to the cat. The animal always played a positive role in the eyes of the participants. Except for Su Xiao, everyone slept with her for 2 days. Therefore, they couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that if she transformed, they would need to kill her. Observers noted that the more rules they learned, the more they began to distrust the cat. It was very good that Su Xiao did not take her into the bedroom with him. Our hero approached the animal and said that for some reason he was very drawn to try cat meat today. I wonder if her meat is tasty. The cat ran away from him in horror, and commentators noted that he was very cool. The guy was very interested in whether something happened to Eurydice last night. She was very strange, and it was better not to touch her. But the young man really wanted to taste her meat all the time. Then our hero noticed a doll on the balcony and did not understand where it came from. Did Eurydice really leave it? Because it seems like yesterday this toy wasn't there. When the guy took it, his hand began to glow, just like in the case of Chwangan, and the commentators began to panic for him to drop it and not touch it. But again, nothing happened. The young man remained alive, and observers decided that he was definitely immune to everything. Our hero grimaced at the sight of the bloody doll and said that it was simply disgusting. She ruined his whole morning. Observers decided that something was clearly wrong with her, so she urgently needed to be thrown out. But the young man did not throw away the doll and went and threw it into the toilet room. Observers began to wonder if this doll was part of the oddity. It turns out that the young man plans to use the toy to deal with the strange toilet. The young man is even too smart. Meanwhile, in the US conference room, they were discussing that, at the moment, Su Xiao and Chwangan's immunities are the most durable, but only Su has already exceeded all possible margins for error. Therefore, his skills are clearly higher than G's, so he has at least an S rank. They really hope that their candidate John can surpass him. The young man thought that so far everything was fine with the cat, and it was worth using the skill. The system reported that rank S has 3 attempts to recognize incorrect rules. In addition, it allows you to chat with a selected person within 3 minutes. The guy noted that he only has 3 opportunities to recognize the rules. In the first days, he had already spent 2, since there was only 1 left. The guy can try to find out something about the animal. In fact, the role of this cat is not that important. But in any case, it is necessary to beware of it. Rule number 15 said that you could go outside, but what was the point? Rule number 18 was the most difficult. It says the trial only lasts 7 days, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. Therefore, he decided to give this particular rule a chance and find out everything in more detail. The error recognition skill for object number 18 was activated. The system indicated that this rule was incorrect. The candidate from the United States of America rejoiced that he had made the right choice, and it was unlikely that Su Xiao would have thought of such a thing. Suddenly he heard a child crying and got scared, because where could the child come from? Then the cat became very affectionate and came up to rub his leg. The young man completely stopped understanding what was happening. He sat down next to her and asked if she wanted to tell him not to go anywhere. Looking at the doll, the guy noted that apparently the cat was protecting him, and she was completely unusual, like all other cats. But John would still not risk going out onto the balcony, since Rule 18 stated that you should not go out on the balcony under any circumstances. The reason he was trying to check the balcony was because of the cat, more precisely, in her fidelity and nothing more. While John was checking on the cat, children's cries could be heard in the homes of other players. Arthur sat down on the sofa, covered his ears and closed his eyes, pretending that nothing was happening. As for the exit, most participants simply ignored this point. Adolfo from Bali couldn't sleep at all. The guy's been constantly nervous since he got into this game, so he opened the window and stood silently in a daze. But suddenly, a magical power appeared that began to envelop him. It was an immersion into the world of strange conversations. In the Bali conference room, they decided that they urgently needed to notify the entire country and turn on the first alert level by activating the chips. Let them convey information about Mom's note to everyone, without exception. They need to try to save themselves and reduce the number of victims. Observers noted that large countries are much better equipped than small ones. Therefore, thanks to the chips, citizens will be safe for the first few days. Then they decided to give it up and see what Su Xiao was doing there. From behind the toilet door, near which he was standing, there were screams and some kind of commotion. It turned out that there the cat was fighting with a doll found on the balcony. When it suddenly became quiet, the young man decided to see what happened there. Commentators were very afraid that they would see something bloody there and asked not to open it. A cat suddenly ran out from there, and commentators noted that it seemed that everything was fine with Yorodonoi, and this time she held the victory. They really enjoyed watching her get angry, because she couldn't do anything to Su Xiao. The young man loudly asked her if she would dare to raise her paw on him one more time, because the winner had not yet been determined, so if the cat wanted, they could repeat. The animal ran away from him, hid under the table, and began to shake with fear. The young man said that he thought she was cool, but the cat turned out to be an ordinary coward. Commentators noted that they sincerely sympathize with her because the doll turned out to be better. It seems she has met her nemesis. Then they noticed that the young man took the doll out of the toilet again. When the toy began to smile creepily, the guy took it by the cheeks and began to stretch it in different directions. Then he threw her aside and told her that she needed to learn to keep her mouth shut. Commentators noted that it was a very scary smile, and it seems that Xiao prevented her from casting a spell. Then he threw her into the toilet and said that since she was no use, she should go to the toilet. Perhaps in the future she can become an excellent guard. Observers noted that if something came out of the cat again, a wonderful show would begin. Our hero noted that he was tired of all this showdown, and it would be better to sit down to rest. Sitting in front of the TV, he noted that he was tired of eating steaks every day, so when he returned home, he would arrange a varied menu for himself. Commentators noted that this sounds very funny. They are sure that the governments of other countries are now furious. But suddenly, some otherworldly creature began to crawl out of the TV. Observers did not understand what it was. Was it really some kind of reptile in the form of a person? When the young man ran away from the room, South Korea noted that the country of Lun had finally come to an end. On the eastern island, they thought he was cool, but as soon as the guy saw the monster, he immediately ran to the toilet. Did he really shit his pants right away? But when our hero came out of the toilet and put a doll in front of him, the United States thought that he was a fool. And why did he even come out of there? On the eastern island, they noted that the distance is too short, and it seems that Su Xiao will no longer be able to escape anywhere. Suddenly, the young man began to hit the doll on the cheeks, and the observers did not understand what he was doing and why. But whatever this meant, the creature was in complete shock and seemed to be at a loss. Suddenly, the monster sharply headed towards our hero in order to attack. On the eastern island, they noted that the desire to contain strangeness is just a dream. Su Xiao can no longer hide. Then the young man grabbed the cat by the scruff of the neck and began to perform exactly the same manipulations as with the doll. The creature suddenly froze, and the commentators did not understand why she stopped. I wondered if it was going to do anything else. To everyone's surprise, the otherworldly force began to bow to our hero. After which I went back to the TV. In the country of Huisun, they could not believe their eyes that this candidate from the country of Lun used a cat and a doll to scare away the monster. Su exhaled that the otherworldly force was not as brave as the doll and Uradina, so he quickly moved away. Observers noted that Xiao was very smart. The US commentator exclaimed that he wants to become his fan and support Lun in the country. In the Choo-Choo conference room, they decided that Su was a dark horse. They need to maintain friendly relations with the Lun country, so let them immediately send them a proposal for cooperation. The UK conference room was ordered to hurry up and provide the Lun country with the latest information they had. In the USA, they were freaking out about how this guy's actions could cause such a response. Does he really have any talent? This guy cannot be allowed to glorify the country of Lun even more, so from now on, it is necessary to monitor his every move. In the conference room of the Lun country, they reported that they had just received cooperation proposals from the Choo-Choo country and the UK. They were also given updated information about the strange conversations, but their real purposes were unknown to them. Su's game exceeded all their expectations. He has yet to succeed in these tests. They have one opportunity left to give him a hint, and they need to use it only at the most critical moment in order to give the guy a guarantee of a brilliant victory. Meanwhile, the young man was once again cooking himself a steak, breaking this rule. But suddenly, a monster appeared behind him again. Commentators noted that they were scared to death. Our hero remembered that the 13th rule says that sometimes a strange woman may appear in the house. You need to try to communicate with her, but you can't trust her completely. If the rule is correct, then all you need to do is greet her. But he must go against the rules in order to gain protection from his skill. Commentators noted that Su Xiao was pretending not to notice her. Others wondered where it came from, whether Urodina had crawled out of her body again. From the back it looked like the one that then crawled out of the cat's body, so it is quite possible that this is the same person. Walking past this creature into the hall, our hero began to walk around looking for the cat, but it seemed to have disappeared somewhere. The young man wondered if this woman really had something in common with that animal. Perhaps Urodina was offended and decided to turn into this woman in order to take revenge. But this girl could also be the mother who left the note. It is necessary to look at it again. Perhaps some new clues will appear. But when the young man turned around, he saw that the woman had disappeared. The guy didn't understand what it all meant and why she suddenly appeared and just as suddenly disappeared. One commenter said he noticed that the two women were a little different. Others did not understand what exactly the difference was. The guy said he couldn't say that at the moment. Let them just watch her more closely. Meanwhile, a strange woman began to appear in the houses of other candidates. Arthur noted that she should not harm him, since, in his opinion, the 13th rule must be true, and it is necessary to check it. After which he extended his hand to this creature, said that his name was Arthur, and asked him to give his name. But without saying a word, the otherworldly force simply disappeared, and the young man was left standing in confusion. In the place where she stood, there was a note that said that she was she, but she was not her. People didn't understand what this meant. The note was received by Ivanov from Russia and John from the USA, but no one understood what it meant. I wonder what Su Xiao had there. Noticing a cat that had crawled out from under the sofa, the young man noted that just now there wasn't even a smell of her there. Perhaps Urodina and that woman are actually the same person. Fortunately, he did not get close to her, because who knows where this all could have led. That night, everyone except John and Su Xiao took the cat to their bedroom for the night. Looking at John, who was sleeping peacefully, commentators began to wonder what was wrong with our hero's cat. They noted that, looking at Urodinu, they became increasingly creepy. Is this animal really the same woman? When they noticed that something was starting to come out of the cat, some of them did not understand why they were even looking at it. Others were afraid and asked if she had already come out, and if they could watch again. Others noted that the sight made them sick. Observers reported that she had already crawled out and they could continue watching, but it only became worse than it was before. When she headed towards the bedroom, people did not understand why she was going there. Did she really decide to attack the young man who was sleeping peacefully? When the creature began to pull the handle, people began to panic, so they shouted for Sue to wake up, because something needed to be done. Others said that she was very brave, but she should not offend Emperor Huandi's descendants, so let her go away. But then they exhaled, because they remembered that the young man always locked the doors at night, which meant he should be safe. But suddenly, the pen broke and ended up in the woman's hand, so everyone started to get nervous that the guy didn't have long to live. Suddenly, the otherworldly creature freaked out and threw the handle to the side, which hit the doll directly. She really didn't like this treatment, so she immediately decided to attack the insolent woman. Suddenly, the live broadcast began to cut out again. Observers did not understand why this happened at the most critical and interesting moment. Probably, these two interact with each other somehow, so the picture should become clearer soon. People didn't expect the doll to protect Sue. He made the right choice again. from locking the doors to the doll that was left for security. This guy looks relaxed, but is constantly thinking about his safety. After some time, the picture finally resumed. Some sat up all night on purpose, and now they will know exactly how the matter ended. Looking at the torn doll that lay on the floor, observers noted that, as they thought, there was a bloodbath yesterday. The young man concluded that it looked like that woman was coming again, and fortunately for him, he thought of leaving the doll at the door, so at least he could get some sleep. He'll sew her up since she protected him all night, but don't blame him for his sewing skills. In fact, he decided to restore it not only out of the kindness of his heart. There were still a few days left before the end of the test, so it could clearly be useful to him. Having finished sewing up the doll, the guy noted that he still needed to fix the door handle, which was torn off yesterday. Although the handle was slightly damaged, the core of the lock remained intact, so you can continue to lock the door. When the young man finished with the repairs, he turned his attention to the clock and was surprised that it really took him 4 whole hours to sew up the doll and fix the door lock. But it couldn't have taken that long, and the time on the clock seemed to be passing faster than in previous days. The 14th rule stated that the time on the clock may not run in the correct order, so it cannot be relied upon. But the problem was that the wall clock is the only source of accurate time, and if you can't rely on them, then how can you determine the time? But his talent is still rebellious, so we need to look at everything from the other side. He just needs to set an alarm for a certain time. Soon, John from the United States of America also noticed that something was wrong with the watch. They Su Xiao disagreed, but both began to doubt the accuracy of the time. The rest didn't really care about the clock, and they didn't pay attention to it. That is why they made the same choice as our hero. They trusted the clock. People watched TV with Sue and noted that the girls' dance went beyond aesthetics. One of them noted that it doesn't seem strange to them that today is too calm, because this is a world of strange conversations. All candidates were relaxed. Idra from the UK commented that it was a bit too quiet, so it might be worth going to see what was going on outside. She remembered that Rule 15 said that you can go outside, but you need to take care of your shoes. If she can get some clues on the street, she will be able to significantly get ahead of other candidates and increase the likelihood of successfully passing the test. As soon as Idra opened the doors, a magical power appeared that enveloped her. People noted that she herself was to blame. Now only John, Artur, Ivanov, Pasha, and Chwangan remain in the world, in addition to Sue. Our hero was getting closer to success. When the return report of the dive into the world of strange conversations appeared in the UK conference room, the management shouted that they did not want to die. On the 5th day, at exactly 8 in the morning, the young man again discovered the torn doll under the door. The young man did not understand what was happening. He just sewed her hand on yesterday, and he'll have to do it again. Does this crazy woman really want him dead that much? Then he turned to the doll and said that every day he sews it up, and then this creature again tears off its arms and legs. I wonder how much longer she can hold out. Viewers noted that he is so caring and gentle that they almost want to cry. But suddenly the young man threw the doll into the toilet room and said that since it did not allow him to sleep normally at night, he would sit with Urodina during the day. Observers immediately took back their words and said that he was not gentle. They were mistaken. Our hero, meanwhile, exclaimed that he would go eat noodles while the doll and the cat were fighting. When the young man finished cooking and returned to the hall to eat, he found a woman sitting in a chair. Commentators noted that she scared them again, making the hair on their head stand on end. They thought that Su Xiao was also afraid of her, but suddenly the young man went and sat calmly on the sofa. The commentators decided that he was completely out of his mind, because he's now on the verge of death, and it's scary just to look at it. Meanwhile, one of the candidates apologized to the cat and said that he believed Su Xiao from the country of Lun. The 5th day will soon end, and out of 6 people only Su Xiao, John, and Pasha killed the cat, It was interesting what would happen next. Meanwhile, our hero was wondering why she didn't come again. The commentators did not understand who he was waiting for. Could it be this creepy woman? Perhaps it is better for him to sit in the bedroom, because it is much safer there, and that creature should not go there. The Pakistana conference room rejoiced as our hero looked perplexed. They would really like that woman to kill him as soon as possible. John, from the United States of America, was sure that the clock was definitely lying, since it was written that the cat needed to be killed before 12 o'clock. But the current time was already 12:01. It feels like the clock is going much faster than usual. It turns out that at the moment, it actually only reaches 12s, after which the young man grabbed a knife and cut the animal in half. Meanwhile, the Pakistana representative received a message from management saying that it was necessary to get rid of the cat. Following the example of Su Xiao, the young man wondered that maybe someone else had read the information from the note and therefore killed Urodinu. But this doll was clearly not an ordinary one, and he realized this a very long time ago. Suddenly, the young man heard some noise and fuss coming from the toilet. Looking there, he saw that everything around was covered in blood. A dead cat was lying in the center, and a doll was sitting next to it. The young man noted that this was somehow strange, because before the toy had simply fought with the cat, and it certainly had no intention of killing it. Then the guy read from the note that if he kills the cat before 12, they will find him in the evening. He did not understand what this meant and why it was necessary to get rid of it so quickly. Is it really some kind of new rule? If this has any influence, then he must resist and do everything his own way. Everything needed to be thought through more carefully. If this note was left by a woman who came at night, then she could easily kill him anyway. But why was it necessary to strain so hard and leave messages? It turns out that it must mean something else. Sometime later, the young man ate noodles again in the presence of this woman. Commentators noted that he is very brave and there is nothing more to add, since he simply ignores her. But suddenly, the girl disappeared as quickly as she appeared, and left behind another note. After some time, the creature appeared again from the cat's corpse. Commentators were shocked by what they saw. Our hero noted that he had completely forgotten that this monster was sitting in Urodina. Otherwise, he would not have looked, since the sight was simply disgusting. But unexpectedly, the girl did not attack, but smiled and thanked him. The young man was very surprised and asked why she thanked him. The woman explained that she left notes with rules and became part of this world, but in this place she could only exist in the form of a cat. Here, she is waiting for her real child, but I already realize that it seems that she will never wait for him. She thanked the candidate and said that she felt the energy of her child from him. Perhaps he is just like him and lives freely in the outside world. The woman misses him very much, but it seems they are never destined to see each other again, thanks to him for helping her get out of control. Now she has finally found her true self, after which she said goodbye and left. The young man stood for some time in a stupor near the torn body of the cat, but suddenly something dawned on the young man. He looked at the doll and said that he should have guessed that. The doll is the woman's child, so it is not surprising that he chose to kill the cat so that it would not suffer. Now he understood why this woman did nothing with him during the day. During the day she is real, and at night she is under control. Let the doll cry if she really wants to. He hopes that his mother will understand that her child is always with her, no matter where she goes. The guy thinks that the woman is happy now. An alert appeared, congratulating him on passing the mom's note test. The reward is a doll that will ensure his safety and resistance to monsters. When the resistance percentage reaches 100%, he will become immune to strange things. The young man was very surprised that he had already completed the game, since he had only been there for 5 days. How did he manage to finish it so quickly? It was also interesting whether the rule that says that 7 days are given for testing is true or not. Commentators noted that they were all misled. 5 days were allotted to complete the test, not 7. Moreover, from the very beginning, there were only 5 steaks in the refrigerator. People noticed that Sue was in pain and was holding his hand. A skull tattoo appeared on the young man's hand, which meant that the candidate could keep the talent he received. The residents of the country of Lun were greeted with congratulations that Xiao had successfully passed the test, so the life expectancy of all citizens was increased by 10 years. Some immediately noted that everything stopped hurting them, and they felt better. Others couldn't believe what happened. They thought it was all a dream. Finally, they won, and it was their turn to triumph. Meanwhile, panic was slowly beginning in the US conference room. One of the men tried to calm the leader and said that they still had a chance. Perhaps very soon, this woman will come out to John. But the man was furious that the country of Lu had overtaken them, because what would other countries think of them? Their authority will begin to decline sharply. Now all their partners will flee to the country of Lun. On the East Island, everyone was in a stupor. Why didn't the US tell John anything, and why didn't anyone tell Chuangan to kill the cat? Ji suffered several defeats in front of Su Xiao, so this is the end. The system notified that our hero had been returned to the real world. Candidates will continue to participate in the next test, which will be held in 3 days. They wish him luck and look forward to his start. When Su Xiao returned to his homeland, he became a national hero. Everyone was very happy to see him and greeted him loudly. Soon after this, Pasha also completed his test without any hindrance. In the world of strange conversations, only John, Artur, Ivanov, and Chuangan remained. The terrifying woman appeared simultaneously in front of everyone. John tried to justify himself by saying that she herself said to kill the cat, and he did exactly what was ordered. But the woman attacked him anyway. Taking him by the throat, she explained that the guy had made the right choice. But unfortunately, time had already run out. The young man did not understand why. He said that this could not happen, because there was still time. The guy couldn't believe it all, because he shouldn't have relied on his watch. Didn't last night last too long. Before the woman broke his neck, he managed to say that apparently after that, everything returned to normal, which means he was misled. Meanwhile, the girl got out of the cat in front of everyone else and said that their time had come to an end. Unfortunately, they were unable to pass the tests. The United States of America conference room was furious that John couldn't even pass the test. But luckily, they had all the information they needed. We urgently need to send everyone chips that can resist strange conversations. In the East Island conference room, they noted that it was a good idea to purchase American chips. Exactly 3 days later, our hero again found himself in the world of strange conversations. He noted that he had not yet had enough time to enjoy his brand new car. The system announced that it was glad to welcome Sue to the world of strange conversations. The current mission is a train heading into the distance. Several participants were randomly selected: Lun Country, UK, Bali, Russia, Chuchu, Korea, East Island, and Pakistan. This time they will go to the Bloody Palace Cemetery. They will act as a conductor on the train. You need to change into a work uniform, remember the number of the car they are in, and also read the conductor's rules. The train will arrive in 3 days. The young man came to the conclusion that it was necessary to find rules as soon as possible. After some time, he noticed the suitcase and realized that it would contain everything he needed. Sue puked on his uniform and began to read the rules. There may be strange passengers on the train, but you need to treat everyone equally. With difficult ones, you need to restrain yourself. Don't pay attention if they smoke. Things often get lost in the compartment. He has the right to refuse help to everyone except the child. There is no need to prevent children from running around on the train. Food is delivered directly to the carriage, so there is no need to pick it up at the junction. Sometimes, passengers from other carriages may come to visit. If he is offered to try stewed meat, he should not refuse. There is only one person in each compartment, but not everyone has meat. The conductor is not allowed to leave the carriage. After 8 p.m., the lights must be turned off. None of the passengers should see the crew rules, otherwise they must be dealt with immediately. After 12 guys at night, do not pay attention to everything that happens in the carriage. Since the last page was torn out, the young man thought that the crew must follow more than 10 rules. The last part must be hidden somewhere in the carriage. If there are no passengers yet, he will try to find her. People noted that Sue is starting a new study. They went to the live broadcast of candidates from the East Island and the USA, so the players looked like beaten dogs. But they have come under the onslaught of strange conversations, so the current players are tense. They cannot let their countries down. The young man looked around the entire car, but still could not find the last page. He was no longer sure whether she was exactly there somewhere. Everything around looked rather strange, as always. There are 2 connections between the front and rear carriages, but they are blocked. It was very interesting what was in the neighboring cars. When the young man took out the doll, the audience noted that it was from Mom's note, because Sue received a reward upon completion of that test. Therefore, he can transfer his things into the world of strange conversations. They think that there will definitely be a use for it. The young man noticed that the doll was looking at the pillow. Apparently, there was something there. Feeling it with his hand, the guy realized that there was what he had been looking for all this time. It said that if a passenger wants to exchange pillows with him, then let him give him the best one. To prevent this from happening, you cannot open the window, and you cannot bring animals into the carriage. If he sees some kind of living creature, then take it out of sight. If one of the passengers gets hurt, then you need to help. There will be communication between carriages during food distribution. Other passengers may sneak into the carriage. In addition to lunch, they sometimes sell beer and other things. If he is offered something, he should not refuse. And the last rule is that from midnight to 6 a.m. is the most dangerous time. If someone calls him, then let him not answer. Passengers slowly began to run into the carriage. Some of them immediately started smoking. Our hero immediately appeared in front of them and said that smoking was prohibited. Commentators pointed out that didn't the 12th rule say that Su Xiao should not pay attention to smoking? Has he really decided to go against the rules again? And then he took the cigarette of one of them and broke it, while stating that he told me to smoke too. Is it really hard to hear him? The passengers were taken aback and asked what he was doing and how dare he interfere with them. The young man silently pointed to a sign that said smoking was prohibited. The young men began to be indignant about what was wrong with smoking. Does he really want them to die during these 3 days of the trip? It will not be easy for them, and besides, they are sure that Xiao himself secretly runs out to smoke. Then one suggested that they go to the toilet and Su would not do anything to them. But the young man grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and said that he really hoped that he would not get himself into big trouble. The passenger began to get angry and his face became distorted. Commentators noted that it seems Su might die now, but it is his own fault. This is his mistake. But the young man abruptly put the doll in front of him and asked if they dared to go against it. The insolent passengers were very frightened and retreated back. Commentators noted that this was a very good move. Then the young man told them in a menacing voice to behave appropriately, after which he turned to the woman with the child and said that if she allowed him to rage here, he would punish him. The child began to cry loudly, and the woman was indignant at what was happening to him. She had never met such a terrible guide. Is it possible to behave this way with passengers? Observers noted that the Sua knows how to strike first. It is better to let him take the initiative than to allow passengers to control him. The guy noted that everything went great. This is exactly the result he wanted. Observers decided to look at the East Island candidate, Ichiro Ibe. He respectfully addressed the passengers and asked them to put away their cigarettes, since smoking was not allowed there. They argued what was wrong with smoking and what it could do to them, after which they began to beat him and say that he had really decided that he had the right to command them. If he has never been beaten, now he will feel what it feels like. Finally, the young people vomited on him and went about their business. Ichiro noted that this was a terrible humiliation and very mean. Viewers found it funny why the East Island candidate couldn't even stand up for himself. They were already in tears of laughter. Then they decided to look at Nikolai from Russia. He has an S-rank skill. This candidate shouted menacingly at the passengers that smoking was not allowed. This was a clear representative of S-rank. Leadership. Thanks to this skill, his words represent absolute authority in front of the passengers, and they will listen to everything he says. They noted that the representative from Russia this time is very influential, and it is very interesting what will happen next. It was still unclear what skills Sue had. No one had any idea about this, except the leadership of the Lun country. The audience thought this was wrong, because they usually announce all the skills of the candidates. Why are they silent this time? Meanwhile, a voice was heard that told our hero that the conductor from the sixth car had brought breakfast. When the fog appeared, the young man noted that it was very strange because he thought that the cars were connected to each other. Then where did it come from? Perhaps this is some kind of independent carriage. In any case, the eighth rule states that the conductor is prohibited from leaving the carriage. But the young man decided that they would think about it a little later after breakfast. Surprisingly, the food turned out to be very tasty. Observers noted that the fifth rule stated that food should not be picked up at the carriage junction. But Su Xiao, as always, went against the rules, and they are sure that he is going to continue to do so. A man with a pillow came up to our hero and said that it was too hard, so he couldn't get used to it. Then he asked to replace it. This was a test. The 11th rule looks normal, but it is written on a torn page. The young man already knew about this rule, but he did not understand the point of exchanging pillows. After all, he might not have realized that the last page was hidden there, and then he might not have read the rules. First, the young man kindly asked if he wanted to exchange it for his pillow. The man replied yes. But the guy exclaimed that no, it won't work like that. Commentators noted that Xiao made a very good actor. The man began to leave, saying that if he didn't want to, then he didn't have to. But why tease the old man? What a generation it is today. The young man noticed a magical glow that came from the passenger's pillow. Meanwhile, the majority chose to refuse the exchange. Then we found the rest of the page with the rules. However, 3 candidates from small countries agreed to the exchange, including the country of Champa, which was just immersed in strange conversations. In the conference room of this country, the leadership exclaimed that he was a real idiot. They can no longer look at all this because it is simply unbearable. They then decided to send him a hint. The young man was surprised that they decided to use one of the 3 clues. Is this pillow really that important? Commentators noted that the poor child still did not understand anything. He needed to take an example from Sue, who had inspected the pillow beforehand. They then switched the live broadcast to Xiao, as they were very interested in what he would do next. But suddenly there was a cry from a passenger who exclaimed that his things were missing. The woman raised her boil and threateningly asked who took her noodles with sauerkraut. Let them give it back immediately. And when one of the passengers asked who needs her noodles anyway, is she crazy or something? The woman was indignant. How dare he talk to her like that? Our hero noted that according to the 3rd rule, things often get lost in carriages, and if a passenger needs help, he has every right to refuse him, but only if it is not a child. Therefore, it is necessary to do the opposite. Calling the nervous woman Sis, he said he would help her find the noodles. Don't let her worry. She immediately exclaimed that there was no need to worry so much because it was just noodles, and she could eat something else. The young man objected that, after all, it was his responsibility to take care of the passenger's property, so don't let her worry. Noodles are also considered property, so she can count on him. Commentators admired how cool he was. Suddenly, another concerned woman burst into the compartment, shouting that her child was missing and needed to be found urgently. The passenger whose noodles were missing told her not to worry, because their guide was very good and he would definitely help her. But our hero said one word: no. The observers didn't understand how Su Xiao could be so cold-blooded. This means he can find the noodles, but he can't find the child. He then added that his sister comes first, so he will look for noodles first. Don't leave her hungry. Others exclaimed that compared to the child, the noodles are not so important, so let him help with finding the child first. The woman who had lost her son was beside herself with rage at the cool expression on our hero's face, after which she exclaimed that she did not need his help and could handle everything herself. After she left, the young man said that he would immediately go in search of noodles with sauerkraut. After some time, he searched the entire carriage but did not find any noodles. There was no other choice, and there was only one place left that he did not look into. Opening the door, he saw a little boy eating noodles straight from the toilet. The child smiled a toothless smile and asked if he wanted one too. Our hero found this sight simply disgusting, after which she drew attention to the dog, which was next to the child, and noted that there was clearly something wrong with it. One of the rules said that if a passenger wants to exchange pillows, you need to give him a good one. No matter what happens, do not open the window. Animals must not be brought into the carriage. If he sees any living creatures, he must leave them. If one of the passengers gets injured or a relapse of the disease begins, you need to think about how to deal with it. Communication between carriages will be established during food distribution. Other passengers can sneak into his territory while the door is open. Since the 13th rule stated that you cannot contact the animal, our hero took out the doll and put it right in front of him. Suddenly, a woman who had lost a child appeared and exclaimed that she had asked him not to eat everything. Why does he constantly bother people and cannot behave normally? The young man noted that he was prevented from getting down to business, but when he turned around, the poodle was no longer there. The guy thought that this animal would obviously appear again later, so for now it was necessary to resolve the issue with the noodles. Walking into the woman's compartment, the conductor apologized and said that the lost child ate her noodles mixed with excrement from the toilet. The woman immediately began to feel sick. Our hero exclaimed that he had done a good deed again. Viewers noted that apparently Sue understood everything wrong because she began to vomit. It was interesting how the other candidates did, since everyone was faced with the same choice. Everyone decided to find the child first, ignoring the request for noodles. When most saw the dog, they decided to flee. But some of the candidates started petting the furry, because they never saw the last page with the rules. And when they realized that there was something wrong, and that it was in fact an otherworldly creature, it was already too late. 5 countries began to plunge into a world of strange conversations, and the countdown began. In the conference room of the country Lupu, they panicked that they had just gotten rid of their mother's note, but not even a few days had passed before a new disaster arose. It is urgent to contact the country of Lun and offer 5 million tons of grain in exchange for the latest chips. In the conference room of the Lun country, they noted that all the small countries that previously cooperated only with the United States are doing what they are trying to do to butter them up. They are all very hypocritical. But they fell into the world of strange conversations 5 times, so their authority was greatly undermined. The management decided that they would still organize the delivery of chips to them, but they would only have them in a week. After everything that happened, our hero decided to lie down to rest. Observers noted that he seemed to be the only one who came there to rest. If the other candidates found out, they would die of envy. But suddenly, our hero woke up from screams coming from the corridor. Some kid was screaming that he wanted to play. Looking out of the compartment, the young man exclaimed menacingly that the little scoundrel should not make noise in the carriage. His mother exclaimed how the guide could treat a child like that. He still doesn't understand anything at all, since he is very small. The young man objected that it is not surprising that many naughty children have divorced these days. It turns out that it's all about their parents. Since she does not want to listen to his words, there is nothing else left to do. The woman began to sarcastically say that he was not capable of anything at all, and no one was afraid of him. The young man slapped her in the face with all his might. The woman was furious and screamed how dare he hit her. Now she won't leave a wet spot behind him. The young man did not pay attention to her screams and kicked her in the chest with all her might. The passenger was rolling on the floor and screaming. People noted that even though the rules say not to disturb children, he broke it anyway and decided to teach them a lesson. He did the right thing in resolving the issue with the parent, since there is no point in talking to children. But everything didn't go as smoothly as we wanted, and the passenger turned into an otherworldly creature. But our hero was not at a loss, and said that for such cases, he also had something in store. Looks like we'll have to teach the lesson a little differently. Then he took out the doll and threw it towards the woman. The live feed began to cut out again. People were unhappy because this always happens at the most interesting moments. Others explained that this is being done to ensure that not all the secrets of strange conversations are accessible and remain behind the scenes. They hope that if something happens to Sue, the country of Lun will help him too. But for now, they can turn their attention to Ichiro. Stuttering, the young man asked for forgiveness and told them to be a little quieter. The lady immediately began to transform and threateningly ask what he had just said. The guy realized too late that he was mistaken and should not have said it. People noted that it was necessary to follow Xiao's example and not kneel before her. Perhaps this is the custom on the Eastern Island, but in this game it is better not to use your traditions. Suddenly, our hero's live broadcast resumed, and they saw that the woman was lying beaten on the floor. Commentators exclaimed that this was funny as hell, because he was doing much better than the candidate from the Eastern Island. The child was very scared and asked not to do anything with him, as he would not behave badly again. The observer did not understand what was wrong with him. Was he really afraid of Su Xiao? The young man looked intimidating and said that since she sincerely repented, he would not torture him. But then he sharply slapped the little boy in the face and told him to go rest. Observers wondered, and it was very interesting, what kind of psychological damage the doll had caused them. It was not a bad job, but if he had done this to their child, they would have shown him where the crayfish spend the winter. Then a girl appeared, who said to buy beer, sunflower seeds, instant noodles, and water. Then she asked the conductor if he wanted something, because she didn't take money from her own. The 16th rule stated that, in addition to lunchtime, a variety of products were sometimes sold in the carriages. If they offer it, then let him refuse. People began to worry and say that they shouldn't take anything, since in any case it was a trap. But the young man exclaimed that since he didn't need money, it was just wonderful, and he would take more of everything. He then noted that if the door was open, the conductor could leave. But I was wondering, what about other people, if they could do the same? Looking at the snacks, the guy noted that no matter how much he liked them, he definitely wouldn't eat them now. When other candidates learned that they could get free snacks, some were happy to accept the offer. But not everyone understood that this was a world of strange conversations. Even if the food looks delicious, it may actually be cat food. Some accepted the snacks, but did not try them, leaving them for a rainy day. At night, all the representatives began to make their calculations regarding the rules. The 1st, 13th, and 16th can generally be considered correct, but the 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 11th are incorrect. With the rest, nothing was clear yet. Before going to bed, the young woman thought about what kind of dog it was today. Why did she seem like a toy? Has it appeared before? And how should it be treated in general? But then he decided that the morning is wiser than the evening. It's better to think about everything tomorrow and go to bed. After 12 o'clock at night, he noted that the doll went towards the snacks, and this was very alarming. It turned out that an otherworldly force appeared in his compartment, with which the doll immediately began to fight in order to protect Su Xiao. When the battle moved into the corridor, the young man noted that, judging by the sounds, it was very brutal. After some time, it was all over. Commentators noticed that the strange thing had disappeared, and the doll looked very sad, but she did not lose. This is already good. They think that after this, no one will dare to attack again. Our hero didn't understand what it was all about, but that creature seemed very familiar to him. The commentators decided to see what was happening with others. The UK candidate was attacked by a monster and didn't have time to do anything. The three countries began to plunge into a world of strange conversations. Observers noted that the UK leadership now seems to be quietly crying. They have not yet gotten rid of past attacks, but now new ones have arrived. Some of them guessed why they attacked those countries. Only those who took snacks from the conductor were attacked. It turns out that the strangeness is happening because of that lady with the cart. They think it's all about the snacks. They attract the attention of those dark shadows. These incomprehensible crunches that were heard everywhere spoke volumes. We can say that the candidate was simply unlucky and only Su Xiao succeeded. The next day, the young man noted that last night it was too dark, so now he needed to carefully examine the crime scene. Looks like the rules have gotten a bit loose. Was this all about stealing his snacks? Looks like today we'll have to ask that girl with the cart for some more food. Commentators noted that, judging by Su Xiao's smile, he had already guessed everything. So now you can sit back and see what Puvuli has got going on. The young man tried to find the crew rules, which had disappeared somewhere. The 9th rule stated that none of the passengers should see the crew's rules. Otherwise, these people must be dealt with immediately. Observers did not understand why he was so worried. Is the 9th rule true? Others said yes. Apparently, if passengers see them, then all the weaknesses of the candidate will become available to them. If a passenger uses the crew rules to lure the candidate into a trap, then it will be almost impossible to get out of it. Meanwhile, it was breakfast time for our hero, and he noted that he did not know that there would be a special meal today. The food was brought by a candidate from Great Britain and said that he was a conductor from the 7th carriage. The commentators didn't understand what was going on. Where did he come from? Because he had to die. Our hero did not know about his death. Would he really die now too? The 6th rule stated that sometimes passengers from other carriages could come to visit. If they offer to eat pork, then there is no need to refuse. The 7th rule stated that there was only one conductor in each carriage, but not everyone had meat. The young man noted that the 6th rule said that sometimes people from other cars can come to him, but the 7th rule says that only one conductor is allocated per carriage. Meanwhile, the guy asked if he would like to try this food, because such a dish is served only in their carriage, so he should not refuse. The young man noted that so be it, you can take it. Since it's still boring, need to have a little fun. When the picture cleared up again, commentators noted that it seemed like the doll had sorted everything out again. They are crazy about this toy. She is amazing, and they are ready to hit the wall for her. The young man wondered if he was the only one who had seen such a scene. It seems that oddities may lie in guests, animals, and even shadows. If the source of the strangeness is identified, it must be immediately destroyed. During dinner, Su Xiao took the initiative and asked the conductor for more snacks, and then dutifully waited for nightfall. After 12, it was time to have some fun, and dark shadows began to appear. The live broadcast was interrupted again, so in the conference room of the Lun country, they decided to wait a little. It's good that they didn't send him a note, because who would have thought that he would guess that this was not a real guide? Candidates from 5 countries began to plunge into a world of strange conversations. The management was furious. The player from Bali was deceived. He ate the snacks in the hope that this would give him an advantage. But in fact, it turned out that the opposite was true. When the guide offered our hero something to eat, he said that he would eat it all later. But the man insisted that this food was still hot, so let him quickly try it right now. Our hero objected that he was used to leaving the best for last. Suddenly, the young man's face began to distort, and he shouted to start eating immediately. Observers noted that it seemed time for him to leave. Our hero exclaimed that he had finally stopped pretending so we could deal with him. The young man nervously said that he couldn't do this anymore. Does Sue want to help him? The guy replied that he would help, but only his legs went numb. The passenger exclaimed that he would do everything now and grabbed his hand. But the guide objected that if he moved, he would be even more paralyzed. The young man could not stand it and began shouting that he was just making fun of him and was not really going to help. And then he added that, oh well, he will find another person who can solve his problem. A woman ran into Vuli's compartment, looking for a conductor and shouting that she really needed his help. Vuli wondered if he really needed to save someone. The 14th and 17th rules mentioned similar things, but they contradicted each other, so he didn't know what to believe anymore. The woman began to rush him and ask what was the matter, whether he was going to go at all or not. The guy asked not to put pressure on him, as he needed to think. The passenger began to shout that everything needed to be done faster, since the person would not be able to wait long. The young man exclaimed that that's enough. He won't go anywhere. The woman immediately transformed and exclaimed that this was exactly what she had been waiting for. It was a violation of the rule, so now he will remain there forever. South Korea immediately began to plunge into a world of strange conversations. Pew was deceived by a passenger, and it was very funny. Korea is plunging into this world for the second time, and it seems that now everything will get even worse. The main star of this test was Sue, and the rest were extras. Hearing some noise in his compartment, the young man sharply turned on the flashlight and said that he would really like to look at it. It turned out to be the same strange dog that he saw in the toilet room. A message from the system appeared, congratulating the player on starting communication with the dog. Its loyalty depends on feeding. As soon as it reaches its maximum, he will win the dog's complete favor. The Dark General cannot leave the boundaries of the carriage and train. The young man noted that if you feed him more, you can gain favor, which means you need to stock up on snacks. The guy started walking around the carriage and shouting to the passengers to wake up and give him the snacks immediately. If they don't do this within 3 minutes, there will be trouble. Some decided that it was better to give everything they had, because this young man scared them very much. Having collected a huge mountain of food, the guy pointed at it and told the dog to take whatever he wanted. Half an hour later, the animal had eaten enough and was sitting surrounded by a pile of snack wrappers. A system message was displayed, in which the candidates were congratulated on the fact that he had successfully won over the Dark General. Now he will follow him. Commentators noted that now Sue is invincible and few will dare to oppose him. It was very interesting why he was always so lucky. But luck is also a kind of force. Early in the morning of the third day, the dog was running in a circle. Our hero did not understand why she was doing this and what was happening. And when the dog ran to the exit of the car, the young man noted that the number had changed. After all, he was supposed to be in the 6th, but he ended up in the 8th, and he did not understand how this could happen. I remembered the rule that said that before you start work, put on your uniform, and remember the number of the car in which you work. This has been given special attention, and something must happen now. A message appeared, stating that the players' carriage numbers had changed. They have 2 options: stay where they are and do nothing, or go through the carriages to theirs. Our hero noted that, as expected, there was not the slightest clue. Commentators began to worry about him, because this was too important a decision. If he makes a mistake, it could end in death. Then they decided to look at Nikolai from Russia because he had leadership ability, and he should make the right choice. He shouted at some guy and asked what he should choose. The young man replied that he had previously been in the 2nd carriage. Commentators noted that the 2nd one is correct. Let the management immediately contact Su Xiao and inform him about this. But first, you need to calm down. Perhaps this will also reach our hero. We just need to wait a little. Sue thought that they wouldn't just be asked to remember the carriage number. He thinks the second option is correct. Moreover, the conductor with the stroller always comes from one place, and the fog, from car to car, is largely designed to intimidate. Some exclaim that Su Xiao made the right decision. He's very smart. Others were upset that he was not the US candidate. Gervais from Jeju made the right choice by relying on his ability as a guide. It was that when a candidate faces difficulties during the selection process, he can use a talent that will immediately show him the right path. Pakistan, seeing Su Xiao's choice, immediately sent a tip to their candidate Pasha, so he also decided to return. Some representatives decided not to move anywhere due to fear of the fog. For example, like Ichiro, from the eastern island. The rest remained because their homeland was unable to send clues due to the invasion of strange conversations. That's why they made the wrong choice. They received a system alert that the selection time had ended and those who decided to return to their carriage had survived, and the rest would be eliminated. The countdown immediately began, and 6 countries, along with the eastern island, plunged into the world of strange conversations. After a while, observers noted that Su Xiao had finally returned, and this was the right option. But still nothing was over, and the 15th rule should not be forgotten. It stated that communication between carriages would be established during the distribution of food. Other passengers can enter his carriage as long as the door is open. Su noted that the food had already arrived. If he understood correctly, then someone must have managed to sneak into the carriage. The 6th carriage contained approximately 40 passengers. If someone else really came in, then there is a chance to find him. Meanwhile, in the conference room of the Lun country, they were discussing whether it was possible to somehow compare passengers in order to understand who exactly was being faked. If this is possible, then the player needs to send a hint. A message was displayed stating that the tip could not be sent. At this stage, the candidate must make his own choice. People commented that the rule was strange, and that it seemed like Xiao had to rely only on himself. But the Dark General was also part of all this strange, so he can clearly help. The animal immediately began to run around the carriage and sniff each of the passengers. Suddenly, she stopped near a young man and began barking at him. Then she sharply grabbed her leg with her teeth. A message appears indicating that the test has passed. The player taught the mother of a naughty child a lesson, dealt with the child himself, and also tamed the Dark General. This is the best way to pass the test. A train going into the distance. His result is 5 stars. The reward is a Dark General and resistance to weirdness. The Dark General was waiting for an owner who could shelter him. He is very loyal and omnivorous. If Su wakes up one day and finds that the dog is gone, then there is no need to worry. He's just looking for food. 3 participants successfully passed the test: Su Xiao from the country of Lun, Nikolai from Russia, and Gervais from the country of Chushu. The high-ranking officials of the Lun country were delighted. They sent an entire army to protect Su Xiao and his family, and also wrote down everything that the guy knew and hid it safely. 3 days later, our hero again went into the world of strange conversations to undergo another test. The following countries were randomly selected for the test: Lung, USA, Russia, Australia, Afghanistan, Argentina, Africa. A man approached the young man and handed him a guide to the zoo. You must always carry it with you so as not to get lost. Various animals were depicted on it in a circle, and on the reverse side were the rules. You need to behave culturally. Do not feed animals. When they look, you don't have to look away. If an employee is chasing animals, then help him. The map is wrong. You shouldn't trust it. If you get lost, then rest on a bench. But if you get lost at night, then avoid the animals. If you are hungry, eat food from the vending machine. If you feel sick, you need to eat goat meat. Contact staff for assistance. Employees in blue will be happy to help, but if you see an employee in black, run. The aquarium is a safe zone. There are no aquariums in the zoo. 10th rule: Keep silence in your heart. He is a man, not an animal. The last rule seemed strange to Sue. People commented that it looked creepy. There is only one possibility for a hint, and this is annoying. So all that remains is to pray for Xiao. The young man noted that the tourists around him looked rather strange. This means there was something wrong with them. Therefore, our hero called on the Dark General. The observers exhaled that now they definitely didn't have to worry about anything. Meanwhile, employees went around handing out carrots for free so that they could feed the rabbits. Commentators noted that the first law states that animals may not be fed. Therefore, this employee is a provocateur. They started betting that Saya would feed the rabbit after all. Our hero immediately held out the carrot and told them to come and take it. It was funny for observers to watch how the rabbits were afraid of the Dark General, but what was strange was that he didn't see pink bunnies, so the second rule must be wrong. And then he threw the carrot aside and said that it didn't matter. He even somehow lost interest because he thought it would be more difficult. He then looked at the map and told the Dark General that they needed to head south. Meanwhile, Samit from Afghanistan sat next to the rabbits and said they were so damn cute. Immediately after these words, they transformed and began to turn into monsters. After he fed them, the young man said goodbye to them and got ready to leave. But the animal immediately rushed to attack, jumping over the fence. Commentators noted that he jumps very high. When the rabbit grabbed his neck, the guy began to scream that he was in pain and asked for help. When the employee helped him, Samit was indignant that he was a very cultured person and why their pet attacked him. What kind of manners were these? The man asked for forgiveness and said that it was all because of their negligence. They will take immediate action. Commentators noted that the guy's eyes began to turn red. Therefore, it was necessary to follow the rules. They always knew that rules are everything, and now it seems that the end has come for him. You shouldn't expect anything good from these eyes. Meanwhile, in the southern part of the zoo, our hero thought that according to the map, there should be horses, tigers, and goats, but there was not even a hint of goats there. Is the map really fake? Then the young man decided to go to the eastern part, where there should be elephants, so there is no need to rush to conclusions just yet. There really were these animals, but they turned out to be somehow gigantic and, moreover, very similar to rabbits. Suddenly, another elephant began to approach them, which looked most like a real one. Then they started fighting among themselves, and the commentators didn't understand what was happening. Why are they doing this? Wasn't that elephant a potential danger to Su Xiao? A normal elephant died alone against a dozen enemies. Its outcome was a foregone conclusion, but it's still a shame. Fortunately, our hero was not involved. The young man had a feeling that something was wrong, but he could not yet say for sure what it was. Then he noticed that the elephants began to turn into goats. The goats began to quickly run towards the fence and crash into it. People began to panic. They said that the animals had gone crazy, so they needed to escape from there as soon as possible. Employees in blue uniforms began shouting that there was no need to panic, because this was a temporary riot. Let them proceed to the lion section, as it is safe there. People obediently followed them. The young man did not understand why the tourists were so obedient. Do they really not have a single drop of doubt? Sue had a lot of questions, namely, why you need to go to the department with lions. Didn't the rules say that the safest place is the aquarium? But he didn't mind at all going to have a look. Maybe he'd stumble upon something interesting there. The observers were completely confused. The rabbits and elephants were strange, and the aquarium was not at all visible whether it even existed in principle. Meanwhile, African participant Babru began to delve into the world of strange conversations. Visitors noted that it appeared to have been trampled by rabid elephants and that it was a terrible death. Apparently, you need to follow the staff to the area with the lions to be safe, but the girl objected that it would be better to watch Nikolai's broadcast. On the contrary, it should be even more dangerous in that zone. Meanwhile, a participant from Russia asked the security why there was a lock on the gate. Suddenly, mad lions began to appear. Observers noted that his mistakes should not be repeated because they should have already been dead, but it turns out that this is another deception. Visitors tried to run away from them and shouted that the lions were attacking them, so they needed help. They urgently need to be released because they want to get out. Nikolai realized that they had fallen into a trap, so he began to climb up the fence. Observers noted that he was so steep that he could climb over such a tall net. It was all over, because all of Xiao would also end up in the lion's mouth. Observers were very interested in whether the Dark General could cope with two hefty animals. To everyone's surprise, huge tentacles appeared from the dog's mouth, which immediately grabbed the animals. The young man was amazed that such a small dog could eat huge lions. Observers noted that they had just seen a victory over the oddities. The leadership of the Loon country noted that he brought a lot of information. Those who show the broadcast must have realized that there is no point in hiding anything. They hope that in the future, Sue will give them more news, and they will get rid of the world of strange conversations forever. In the conference room, the United States was freaking out that the country of Loon did not even understand how lucky they were when it was Su Xiao who came into the world of strange conversations. Now the guy is receiving support from two creatures, and he is afraid that it will be very difficult to catch up with him. They noted that this was all because John had wasted his S-rank skill last time, but it was too late to talk about that. Now they can only give a hint twice. We must do everything possible to ensure that Thomas passes the test. Then the young man noticed that one of the visitors easily managed to climb over the fence. He then ordered the Dark General to quickly open the gate, which was locked. 590. Observers noted that in such a small body there is so much power and energy. On the way, the young man thought that the guy was the only one who managed to escape. He's not like other tourists, so he must have some secret. Seeing a guy sitting on a bench and shaking with fear, our hero noted that he looked desperate. What such a terrible thing did he have to go through? Half an hour later, this young man got ready to go somewhere and left behind a note on the bench. Sue noticed this and decided that he needed to see what was written there. It is said that he did not know whether he would be able to get out alive. The zoo came out of nowhere and dragged them there. He is separated from his friend and cannot find him. He is lost and cannot find his way out. This zoo is very strange, and the animals living there are monsters. He saw with his own eyes how a zoo guard turned into an elephant. The brave man rushed towards the monsters in order to protect them, but was attacked by them. Our hero realized that that very real elephant was a zoo employee. It also said that they were all infected. He is scared and desperate. After 3 days of presence, I didn't know what to expect next. If someone sees this note, then let them follow the rules, and maybe they can get out. Let him remember what he needs to do to get to the aquarium as soon as possible. Our hero realized that the exit was exactly there, but he didn't understand where exactly. People noted that they should ask the staff. Others objected that this should not be done. One has already tried and died. The rules stated that there was only a zoo and no aquarium. In the Russian conference room, they immediately exclaimed that it was necessary to quickly tell Nikolai that he needed to find the note. The Australian conference room also decided that it was urgent to advise Gervais to find the note. In the Afghanistan conference room, it was noted that Samita experienced phase shifts at a critical moment. Was there really nothing that could be done about this? A notification appeared that the time was already 16:35. If tourists want to eat, they can go to the store and buy food there. The zoo closes at 18 goks. If visitors remain after this time, they do not guarantee their safety. The young man decided that he urgently needed to find a grocery store because he did not want to remain hungry. On the way, he came across an area with mountain goats and did not understand why it was there. But then a store came into his sight, and he decided to go shopping. The seller said that they provide visitors with 3 servings of goat meat and drinks free of charge, so let them come and take them. He noticed that on the shelf there was meat specially prepared for tourists. The sixth rule stated that eating goat meat purchased from a vending machine is prohibited. It turns out that he still broke the rules. Sue read it again. It said that if you are hungry, you can eat food from the vending machine, but if you start to feel sick, then let him try to eat goat meat. Our hero noted that the choice is very difficult. Then he noticed a strange drink with a picture of a rabbit and decided to take it. The free drink turned out to be hair blood. Commentators noted that it seems the seller is hiding something. The man began to take away the rabbit's blood somewhere. After Samit encountered those bunnies, the staff said they would deal with them. Perhaps this is how they figured it out. Then you can drink this drink only at noon. Otherwise, problems may begin later. Nikolai from Russia also ignored this strange drink and did not take it, but only took goat meat. Samita was not confused by anything, and he began to drink it. After this, the participant from Afghanistan immediately began to plunge into the world of strange conversations. Commentators noted that he is very stupid. The young man concluded that, based on the records, the zoo over time destroys the psyche of people and turns them into animals. The phrase, "I am human, not an animal," is aimed at preventing the destruction of the mind and not forgetting who they are. It was a great pity that after a whole day of searching, we still couldn't find the aquarium. The staff continues to insist that it does not exist. Our hero thinks that today it will not be possible to find him, or simply something worthwhile. Therefore, you need to return to the store at night. Sometime later, late at night, he heard a strange noise coming from the store. Looking there, he saw a worker in a black uniform. Commentators noted that the seventh rule stated that you should run if you encounter a person in a black uniform, so they did not understand what Sue was waiting for. It turned out that this man was stealing food. This was very strange, because in theory, a man should not need food and maybe he is normal. Then it turned out that the seventh rule was wrong, and it was necessary to talk to this guy in order to find out everything. But it was too late, since he had already escaped. Running out into the street after him, our hero noted that during the day there was no fork in the street, and this was very strange. But when Sue ran there, he saw only a dead end, and the worker in a black uniform was not there. But there was another note on the ground. It was written there that he got lost while chasing rabbits, and when he came to his senses, he did not find his friend and did not remember anything. When I asked the staff for help, he was ignored. Rabbits are monkeys and elephants are rabbits. The first 4 lions are monkeys and the 5th is a mountain goat. During the day, the zoo protects normal people, but at night, only the aquarium can provide them with protection. We must not forget that he is human. Sue noted that he seemed to be a friend of that tourist, but why would he wear a worker's overalls? Perhaps he changed his clothes in the aquarium, and apparently it is really safe there. Therefore, the exit may be somewhere there. Commentators noted that it could be concluded that the recently disappeared road led to the aquarium. Thomas from the USA also found this note. People were surprised how he got it. Did he really use the skill? Others responded that the government sent a tip. Another was upset that he thought he found it himself. But it turns out the player is just a Sue copycat. Meanwhile, the 6 candidates began to plunge into a world of strange conversations. People did not understand why such a number immediately went there. But then they realized that they had fallen asleep on the bench where the monsters found them. It was very good that Sue didn't stay there. The next day, late at night, commentators noted that Xiao stood there all day, but the road did not appear. Suddenly, elephants and rabbits appeared and ran towards the young man. The employee asked for help to stop them. The third rule was that if you see an employee chasing animals, help him. He will be very grateful. Remembering this, our hero said that of course he wouldn't help. The commentators found it funny to the point of tears. They said that this young man was a great fellow. Meanwhile, some representatives still decided to help the zoo staff. However, the candidates could not even imagine that this rule would turn out to be wrong, and the rabbits would turn into monsters. Then they noticed that Su Xiao's live broadcast showed the same road as yesterday again. They really hoped that their guesses were correct, and it led to the aquarium, so they began to pray for our hero. A player from the United States of America also followed the note along the way. If there really was a way out, then he should thank Su Xiao. Nikolai noted that he had been there many times, but this was the first time he had seen such a road. Observers noted that this player is the luckiest, and it seems that he also found his way to the aquarium. 3 candidates managed to find a way out, while others are in danger. Meanwhile, Su had already approached the aquarium. There were new rules there. The aquarium has a relaxation area with jellyfish. Food is provided free of charge. You cannot eat goat meat, even if it lies on the shelf. You cannot stay there for more than 3 days. If it detects an elephant in an area with whales, then this is just a 3D projection. There are no people there, but you can find a black uniform, put it on, and give a rescue signal. The aquarium staff wears red uniforms. They clean every night. You can talk to them, but don't mention the zoo. There is only an aquarium, no zoo. The staff leaves at 6 a.m. after cleaning the aquarium. You cannot leave during this period. Break the rules at your own peril and risk. Su noted that the previous survivor was wearing a black uniform, which means the 4th rule is correct. He must go against the rules, so he will not wear anything on himself. Paying attention to the elephant floating in the water, observers noted that apparently this was the same drowned animal from the 3rd rule. The young man noted that it looked like it was a real elephant, and not a projection. The 3rd rule stated that this is an aquarium where only marine life lives. But if you suddenly find a large elephant in an area with whales, then don't worry. This is just a 3D projection. Then the young man decided to go inside and see what was there. Looking at the jellyfish, he began to involuntarily relax. It was said earlier that there is a very safe place. Perhaps the jellyfish themselves provide this security. Then our hero realized that he was very tired, so he decided to lie down to rest. After some time, the Dark General brought some kind of diary in his mouth. It was a zoo employee's notebook. He wrote that every night he has the same dream, and it is quite strange. The young man did not understand what kind of zoo there was. Commentators were worried about what happened to him. Has he really lost his memory? What to do now? It is urgent to return his memories. Others said that we shouldn't worry so much and should see what happens next. The guy wrote that in his dream, he turned into a drowned elephant. He said that he could not escape, and this was now his new home. He can't get ready to work. He had to follow strange rules. If a worker wants to leave the zoo, he will disappear without a trace. According to the rules, he must remember that the zoo exists on its own. There is no aquarium. When tourists asked how to get to the aquarium, he always answered that there was none. There are noises in the zoo. The animals are strange, and their numbers are increasing. Sometimes various thoughts come to him. But he understands that this is all nonsense, and he needs to continue working. In fact, he really wants to get out of there. We must not forget that he is a person, not an animal. The young man noticed that there was a constant mention of the zoo, and it seemed that something had slipped his mind. There was a very familiar sentence there. He thinks it is the key to the exit, therefore you need to write it down so as not to forget. People commented that they should look at what is written on the back. It said that his personality wasn't that important, but it was worth remembering to stay visible in the jellyfish room. You can rest, but they take away memories. The zoo exists and there is a road to the aquarium. You just need to wait for a certain time to get there. He might have lost his memories of the zoo, but that's okay. The most important thing is to get to the aquarium. Everything else is not so important now. Further, it was said that under no circumstances should you sleep. Perhaps the jellyfish in the room will put him to sleep. But he must not give in. Therefore, our hero told the doll and the dog that if they notice signs of sleepiness in him, then they should wake him up immediately. Then our hero discovered that there was another page. It says that you need to remember that he is a person, not an animal. At around 12 O's at night, workers will come in to turn off the lights. At this time, you need to pretend to be asleep. At 5 no a.m., they will come again. If he doesn't sleep, then let him talk to them, preferably about the zoo or something else. The exit is in the aquarium. At 5:30, the employees go home. You need to follow them in order to get out. The young man decided that it was necessary to write down the most important things. Commentators noted that, fortunately, the Dark General was able to find these recordings. Thanks to them, Xiao received important information about the exit. Meanwhile, Nikolai from Russia went to bed and also lost his memory in the room with Jellyfish. But he was constantly lucky, so he found the diary, but put it aside and did not write anything down. People noted that Nikolai is much smarter than Sue, who only thought of making notes on his hands. In general, what is the need to do them if everything is written in the diary? They hope that people from the East Island and Korea can remember today's words. They then noticed that on Thomas's live broadcast, it appeared that he had also found the diary. I wonder what was written there and whether it said anything about leaving. It said that he was an aquarium worker and started working at night. While working, he has to deal with some strange rules. According to them, he must remember that the zoo exists on its own. There is no aquarium. When tourists asked how to get to him, he always said that there was none. In the room with Jellyfish, people lost their memory. He must answer that there is only a zoo. Otherwise, they will lose interest. When people fall asleep, he checks everything and turns it off. One day he discovered that a couple of tourists had disappeared. He never saw them again. Thomas noted that there was no useful information there. People were nervous why it wasn't written there about how to get out. Half a day was wasted, and there was no important information. The man then decided to see what was on the back. Observers noted that Lun country should not be too proud. Thomas has another notebook, and it should definitely contain information about the exit. It said that he was the boss of the zoo. First, tourists began to disappear, and then employees. The work is very tiring because he has to chase rabbits, but he doesn't know how they can always run away. Often you have to work until late at night. At night you can hear children's laughter. He seems to be suffering from hallucinations and has discovered the secret of the zoo. He can't leave him. None of the guests can leave alive. We must remember that you are under the influence all the time. There is no need to delve into anything. The guy noted that nothing was said about leaving. He has not lost yet, since at any moment he can use the thief's skill, and victory will be his. This talent made it possible to steal another candidate's information. So he decided to use his skill and steal information from Xiao. An inscription only appeared on the leaf, which said that he would not receive anything from him. Commentators were outraged that it was really possible to resort to such vile means. The young man became upset that nothing had worked out, crumpled the piece of paper, and threw it away. Observers noted that it was apparently the Dark General who deceived Thomas. He's not just cool, but excellent, and they also want such a pet. Noticing that our hero began to yawn, the commentators became nervous that he was in danger, since he could not fall asleep. The dog immediately grabbed his hand with its teeth, and the doll began to pull his hair. Observers noted that they bit his hand until it bled. It's very ruthless. The guy praised the Dark General and said that this was good work. Jellyfish seemed to have a hypnotic effect, so don't let him sleep. People noted that he should not fall asleep. If he did, he might never wake up again. On the third day after midnight, the young man pretended to be asleep. Sometime later, a man in a black jumpsuit entered the room and took away the notebook. The young man noted that according to the note, the staff does not enter the room with Jellyfish until the morning. Now we need to wait until 5:30, and only then will he be able to leave the room. Meanwhile, Nikolai also pretended to be asleep, but something went wrong. It turned out that the employees took the diary, but he didn't even bat an eye. But there was no time to panic yet, since he could have written everything down. But when he picked it up in his notebook, he had already forgotten why. He then noted that he was tired and decided to go to bed. Commentators didn't understand why he was doing this. Didn't the diary say that you can't sleep? One of them recalled that jellyfish cause hallucinations. Nikolai gradually forgets everything. Thomas from the United States of America never found an exit plan. So I decided to sleep. When an employee came into our hero's room, the young man noted that it would finally all be over. The guy started asking him if there was a zoo, and if he was going to go home after work. The man did not understand what he was talking about. Then he said that he urgently needed to go and started running. Our hero realized that it was time to go after him. Commentators noted that Xiao was seriously injured. They hope everything will be fine with him. Noticing that the employee ran out of one of the doors, the guy came to the conclusion that this was the way out. When he came out, a message appeared, congratulating him on passing the zoo test. The reward for this is a jellyfish pendant that can calm him down without him losing a part of himself. Oddity resistance was now 4%. It turns out that decoration can calm emotions. This means this skill will help avoid harm to the body. Meanwhile, in the country of Lun, a message appeared that Su had passed the test. Therefore, the country's incidence rate of strange conversations is reduced by 20%. People were very happy that he was able to win again and received 5 stars. In the conference hall of the country, Lun was ordered to hurry up, send elite troops to meet Xiao, and bring the best doctors to him. Or they should even meet him in person. In the Russian conference room, they discussed the fact that, unfortunately, Nikolai could not figure everything out, and only Su Xiao survived. There is an urgent need to inform the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that relations with the country must be consolidated at any cost. In the conference hall, the United States noted that dealing with the Lun country is not so easy. Apparently, God paid attention to them after 5 defeats in a row. You need to meet them and study the information about strange conversations. They can't lose anymore. 3 days later, a new test began. After the disappearance of tourists, Mount Dalo was closed to visitors for 2 years. However, it still attracts with its landscapes. This land belongs to it, and it is the one that receives visitors. But only if people don't mind serving it. It is necessary to descend from the mountain within 3 days. If they can't do this, then it will be only too happy to leave them there forever. There is only one opportunity to submit a tip. The sign indicated rules A for tourists of Mount Dalo. Someone may call them, but you can't look back. Don't count your steps while you're climbing. There are no food vending machines along the mountain. All souvenirs found can be taken home. You cannot eat food at the point of sale. It is very dangerous in the forest. All the inhabitants of Dalo left this place long ago. If you come across suspicious people claiming to be villagers, do not talk to them. Just run. Our hero noted that if there are rules A, then there must be rules B. After which he decided to continue his journey and perhaps, along the way, he would stumble upon some more information. A few minutes later, he came across a sign on which it was written that he had covered 100 meters, and the total distance covered was 10,000 meters. Su didn't understand why he moved such a distance, because a lot of time had already passed. Commentators noted that the second rule states that you cannot count your steps, but our hero decided that he had to do it. Suddenly, the young man began to hear a voice calling his name. Commentators did not understand whether these were hallucinations or whether someone was really calling him. The first rule stated that as soon as the participant entered Mount Dalo, he could hear someone calling him. Under no circumstances should you look back. Our hero, of course, did the opposite. Commentators noted that there was nothing there, and no other tourists were visible either. The young man immediately called for the Dark General and told him to go behind him. If someone approaches him, then let him warn him. After a long time, The young man came across a sign on which it was indicated that he had advanced 800 meters, and the total length of the trail was 10,000 meters. Having noticed the machine, the guy saw that the souvenirs looked new and the expiration date of the products had not yet expired, so most likely they were put there recently. In other words, in addition to tourists, there are also staff there, but tourism is prohibited on this mountain. Then why do employees come? Suddenly, someone started calling our hero by name again, and there was a feeling that he was very close. But it was strange that the Dark General did not hear anything. Is this really what it is? Suddenly, his head suddenly began to pound, but the jellyfish pendant immediately worked, which neutralized it. He immediately felt better and noted that, fortunately, he had a jellyfish that would protect him from influence. But the Dark General did not hear his voice. Therefore, this should not be taken lightly. To begin with, he decided to break the third rule, and then he would receive protection from his skill. The third rule was that there were no food vending machines near the mountain. He can take home all the souvenirs he finds, but he cannot eat food at the point of sale. Then she noticed another sign. It was a map of Mount Dalo. But what interested him was that there was no mark at the end of the mountain. The fifth rule stated that all residents had long since left this place. If you come across suspicious individuals claiming to be residents of the mountain, you do not need to talk to them, but just run. Having noticed two guys, the young man asked where they were from. If by chance they were from the village of Dalo. They replied that everything was correct, and they were simply going around everything. The young man asked why they didn't go along the hiking trail. Residents explained that they were used to walking differently, because it was much more convenient to inspect everything this way. If he is a tourist who has decided to go around the mountain and needs to reach the top, then let him continue along the hiking trail and be sure to look into the mountain temple. Our hero did not understand what other mountain temple was and began to look around in order to see it. Meanwhile, the local residents began to run away from him very quickly in the hope that he would not notice them. Xiao decided to learn from the locals and go through the forest. The commentators began to get nervous that the fourth rule stated that the forest was very dangerous and that he should not take rash steps. But Su, as usual, took charge. Some candidates were very scared when they saw those guys. There were even those who dared to make contact with them and received information about the mountain temple, but did not dare to follow the locals. A girl from Japan, Xiado Made, decided to talk to them. Commentators noted that they had not previously paid attention to the fact that the participant from this country was a girl. She doesn't look well. Maybe she's feeling unwell. Meanwhile, our hero noted that he was walking in a straight line, but still returned to the starting point. It was like if he wanted to reach the top of the mountain, he had to go only on the hiking trail. Then Su saw the new rules. There are no stalls on the mountain, so if you come across one, you don't need to buy anything. On the way to the mountain, there may be a gazebo. You need to stay away from it. If you hear voices, you need to wash yourself on the shore of the dragons and drink water. The Dragon Cave has always been an excellent place to relax. If anything happens, you can turn to the staff there for help. And lastly, you can't trust anyone. Pak Gochin from South Korea became hysterical because he heard voices. The commentators didn't understand why the sound drove him so crazy. The government must send a tip, otherwise it will be the end. The Korean conference room noted that Su used the jellyfish pendant to protect himself. They don't have anything like that, so it's useless to suggest something to the player. Pak decided he wanted to go out. He thinks if he goes back, he can get out. People noted that he was making progress. Even though his idea is stupid, it looks interesting. But he behaves like crazy. How can anyone think that he can fool the world of strange conversations? If everything works out, Gochun will be the first to pass this test. His antics clearly attracted the audience, so more and more viewers tuned in. Half an hour later, he noted that he had been running for a very long time, but still had not returned to his starting point. Commentators noted that he was wasting time, and it would be better if he walked in a straight line. They found his facial expression Very funny. In the conference room, Korea shouted at Go-chan not to let them down. If he succeeds, they will do whatever he asks. Sometime later, our hero came across a gazebo, but the seventh rule said that on the way to the mountain there may be a gazebo, but you need to stay away from it and not touch everything that is in it. But the young man, of course, did the opposite and climbed into it. There, he found two notes. It was one of the members of the research team. He is responsible for patrolling the village and the mountain's hiking trails. According to their rules, contact with other people is prohibited, especially with tourists. They sometimes encounter them, and people ask them strange questions. According to the rules, they should not communicate with them, but can only tell them that they need to get to the mountain temple. There is a canteen in the village where everyone eats, but there is always food prepared there that they cannot touch. The water on the shore is suitable for drinking. Our hero noted that these notes repeatedly mentioned the hotel, Dalo, and the mountain temple. Probably these two places are key. In addition to Su Xiao, notes were also found by Austin from the USA, Alan from the UK, Claude from Bali, and Dijon from the Association of Three Countries. After that, they moved on. Meanwhile, Chiado Made from Japan suffered at the hands of an Ono, but decided to stay away from the gazebo. Commentators noted that she left out very important information and seems like she won't go far. Meanwhile, our hero met another employee. Also next to it, a sign indicated that this was the Dragon's Shore, but drinking from it was prohibited. The guy asked him for a jug, but he refused him. The eighth rule stated that if you feel surveillance or any voices, you must immediately go to the Shore of Dragons. You can wash your face there and drink water from there. The young man noted that if you can't drink from there, then why does he need a jug? He thinks the eighth rule is wrong, so he took the bottle away from him. Then he began to drink water greedily. The commentators were funny that he took it by force and were wondering what would happen next. Then he waved his hand and went on about his business. The employee was clearly shocked, but was the water really drinkable? Viewers hope that nothing happens to him. They think that now he is better than ever, because the eighth rule is correct. Most of the candidates did not dare to drink the water. Only a small part of them decided to try it. A candidate from Japan began to panic because she heard voices and constantly felt like someone was watching her. In the conference room of her country, they noted that she could no longer think straight. It is urgent to send her a hint. Let her drink his water. But the girl was so hysterical that she didn't even see the clue. Made was no longer able to fend for herself, so the hint did not help her at all. So she began to plunge into the world of strange conversations. Commentators noted that the Japanese government are real beasts. They could have sent her a hint earlier. The girl was the first to leave this test. Meanwhile, the young man stopped near a sign on which it was written that he had advanced 6,000 meters, and the total length of the trail was 10,000 meters. Then she turned her attention to the Dalo Hotel. He was surrounded by black fog, and one could assume that things were clearly not so simple with him. The hotel looked very dangerous. The young man noted that if it were not for the jellyfish, he would have entered there unconsciously. The viewer wondered if something would really happen if the candidate entered there. Only complete madmen would want this. Noticing that the candidate from Bali had entered there, the leadership of this country decided that it was necessary to send him a hint as soon as possible so that he would immediately get out of there. But the clue didn't work, and viewers noted that the hotel seemed to be enchanting. No need to look back. Austin and Alan didn't look back, so they couldn't fall under the hotel's spell. Sue is constantly chasing something, but so far he hasn't looked back either. Claude noticed that a note appeared in his hand, but he could not understand where it came from. It said that he was lucky to get into the hotel. If he wants to leave, then he needs to follow the rules. If he meets visitors, he must identify himself as a security officer, whose task is to make inquiries about the state of affairs at the hotel. It is very important that he is not discovered. It is necessary to find out the number of personnel it has and send the information to the mountain temple. The guy noted that he would really have to become a secret agent. It was also said that once the information was delivered to the mountain temple, he would receive a blessing. In the hotel, it cannot affect him, but outside the hotel, you should be careful. There is no need to try to escape from the hotel before completing the task. No matter where the guy goes, he will still end up there. He has no room for error. The task is extremely difficult, so you can't trust anyone. Claude didn't know if the contents of the note were true, but since he couldn't escape from here, it was better to start completing the task. His talent will come in handy here. The commentators didn't know what ability he had. It will be very interesting to see what he does next. Management noted that the situation was not as bad as they thought. We need to talk to the Lun country. Even though their relationship isn't great at the moment, in the world of weird conversations, they could work together. Other candidates who entered the Dalo Hotel began to look for ways out of it. They ignored the contents of the note. The players shouted that they did not want to complete any tasks and should be released from there. But as soon as the candidate tries to escape, the staff immediately catches him, and in the end, no one managed to escape from there. Meanwhile, our hero stopped near a sign on which it was written that he had advanced $8,000 meh. The ninth rule stated that the Dragon Cave was always an excellent place to relax. If something happens, he can contact the staff for help. The young man definitely wouldn't ask for help, but he didn't understand how he ended up there. It prevented him from advancing further, so he decided to go to the Cave of Dragons. The audience finally waited for this moment because Austin from the USA and Alan from the UK found a new rule there. Austin read that the site's staff understands the nerves of families whose loved ones are missing, but they searched the cave and found no one there. Therefore, let them wait for the results of the investigation. You cannot go beyond the line and try to look for someone. It is imperative to reach the end, where staff will be waiting for them to provide assistance. There is no temple there. Its power is becoming more and more powerful. If you encounter him, there is no use in running. He is the god of the mountain. You can't trust anyone. Austin thought that no one should be trusted. This is the same as the 10th rule in the rules of the game, but did not understand what this meant. Suddenly, a voice began to be heard, enticing him to enter. Commentators noted that this is definitely the voice of it, and it controls the young man. When a bright glow appeared, the young man noted that if it were not for the protection from the skill, he would no longer be alive. Therefore, you need to get there as soon as possible. Commentators noted that he managed to get out of control. If their guesses are correct, then this is an S-rank purification. He is able to eliminate the consequences of 2 oddities. Alan from the UK also managed to leave the area. He has a rank A talent, detecting oddities. He can foresee something strange in advance, so after finishing reading the rules, he immediately ran away. This talent was simply amazing. Meanwhile, our hero approached the cave. A voice began to lure him there. Viewers noted that the young man has a pendant with a jellyfish and it cannot do anything to him. The young woman told the Dark General to go forward as everything needed to be inspected. The commentators began to get nervous and did not understand what the young man was up to. Does he really want to fight it one-on-one? This is complete madness. Suddenly, the dog grabbed a tree with its tentacles and threw it deep into the cave. The young man noted that the strange voice in his ears had disappeared and wondered whether everything had really been resolved so easily. But everything turned out to be not as simple as we would like. A powerful explosion occurred. As he fell, he shouted to the Dark General to run away quickly. The management noted that it was good that the dog threw the tree there, since it all could have ended in great misfortune. Apparently, you won't be able to pass the test on your own. All that remains is to cooperate with Claude, who is stuck in the Dalo Hotel. The Ballas were ready to cooperate. The only question was whether the guy could complete his task. The young man thought that it was said that the Dalo Hotel had been closed for a long time. but the people from the entertainment room had not yet come down. Most likely something is going on there. We need to see if we can find something. When he walked in and saw people, he said hello and introduced himself as a new employee from the security department. Commentators began to worry about him. If he died, then Sue would never be able to get out. A rank talent is excellent acting. After using this skill, acting abilities reach the limit. The interlocutor will believe everything the person says. The guest exclaimed that they had a new guy coming out, so let him come in and have fun with them. Viewers noted that now Claude will be able to obtain the necessary information. He turned out to have very good talent, so there is no need to worry. The next day, the young man stopped near the $9,000 M mark. The 11th rule asks to go to the end of the hiking trail, but the 12th says that there is no temple. If he wants to break two rules at once, then there is one way out: a mountain temple. When Sue made his choice, representatives from the US and UK also made their decision. Alan went to the end of the trail and thought that there were only 400 meters left. There would be people waiting at the finish line ready to help him, and he would just be done with it all. But in front of him, the young man saw a mountain temple and did not understand how this happened. After all, shouldn't this be the end of the trail? Why is there no one there? Where are the guards? Ono's voice began to be heard from everywhere, telling him to turn around. People didn't understand what happened. Lately, they have stopped understanding anything at all. Now we need to look at Sue. I wondered if he had reached the mountain temple. Having reached it, the young man wearily noted that only a narrow-minded person could build a temple at such a height. He told the Dark General that he needed to go look at the so-called mountain god. It turns out that the mountain god was a man, and it seemed to him that there was something written on the column. So he decided to come closer and take a look. It said that it lured to the mountain. People under his hypnosis will panic and feel persecuted. They will enter Mount Dalo and follow the route. In most cases, people get lost and become his servants. A small part can fight anomalies. Many years ago, Dalo was visited by a man who had the gift of resisting strangeness. Under his leadership, the ancestors of the mountain defeated it, and then he fell into sleep. In order to honor his memory, the elders called him the mountain god and created a temple to keep him in their memory. The young man noted that it seemed that this mysterious man was the mountain god whose sleep it had awakened. It turns out that if you awaken God, he will be able to defeat that creature. But it was not clear how to awaken him. Then he turned his attention to the note. It said that the businessman proposed to the villagers to turn the mountain into a tourist spot. The elder refused, but the answer was left to the youth, who accepted the offer. Soon a temple was built. Despite the fact that the temple was majestic, few visitors came there because it was difficult to get to. But one day the power of the mountain god weakened, and it reappeared on the mountain. Now it is very dangerous, and no one can get down. Hotel Dalo was the safest place. Austin freaked out, threw out the note, and exclaimed that this was the last hotel. There's nothing to be done. It seems we'll have to go back there again. Commentators noted that it appeared, and it seems that he is mistaken about the hotel. It's definitely not worth going there. Some observers noticed that our hero decided to go to the hotel, and they could not wait for the moment when the inhabitants of the country of Lun were overtaken by strange conversations. But suddenly the young man threw out the note and said that he really thought he could lure him there. The guy would never go to that hotel. Viewers noted that, unlike the representative from Japan, Su Xiao is a great guy. Meanwhile, Claude took the note and entered the temple. The young man said that he collected this information himself. He'll see what happens next and hope he can get out of there. As he placed the note near the statue's feet, a bright golden glow began to appear. Commentators noted that the guy succeeded because the golden light meant he was safe. When the young man entered back into the temple, he saw a note that appeared near the statue in the very place where Claude had left it. Observers advised the Lun country not to rejoice, because Su Xiao did not believe the previous note, which means he will not believe this one either. An alert came out that a new note contained information about the hotel. She can be trusted. People noted that Japan had a chance for a clue, but they took advantage of it too late. Why is the government of the country, Lun, so thoughtful? But they are not. Our hero noted that all hotel employees are subordinates to it, which feeds on people's lives. If you need to get rid of it, then it is necessary not only to awaken the mountain god, but also to kill the employees. The note says that a golden outfit with incense can be found in the temple. With the help of these things, you can awaken the mountain god. Having opened some suitcase that was in the temple, the young man found this outfit. Viewers were wondering what Sayao would do next. If he follows the contents of the note, then maybe he will succeed, so he needs to keep watching. But suddenly, a creature appeared behind him. Commentators noted that it seems to be catching up with him. Apparently, he is not at all afraid of the appearance of the mountain god. The spectators asked Su Xiao not to turn around and look at him, because if he looked, everything would end. The creature had a terrifying appearance and a simply terrifying voice, with which it spoke to the young man to come closer to him and become his slave. Spectators began to pray to God that the player would be fine. The young man began to feel like some unknown force wanted to grab him. Suddenly the pendant began to glow, and people noted that it was very good that there was this jellyfish. So the guy should be safe. Now he is able to withstand the power of it, and it will not be able to capture him. Now everything should be as easy as shelling pears. They also noticed that Su had done everything to summon the mountain god. But why hadn't he appeared yet? Did the legend turn out to be false? An otherworldly force hissed that all of humanity should turn into his slaves and serve only him. The young man did not waste time and ordered the Dark General to attack the monster, but it simply instantly cut the dog's tentacles. Observers noted that the Dark General is not his opponent and what to do now in this situation. But when people saw the doll in the hands of our hero, they decided that there was still a chance to win. Let her protect the country of Lun and Su Xiao. Unfortunately, the doll was unable to cope with this otherworldly creature. The guy didn't understand what was happening. Maybe he missed some details. If the mountain god does not appear, then the dog and the doll may remain on the mountain forever. But he does not want that. As the creature threw the Dark General away, commentators began to panic that it seemed the end had come. The animal and the doll are not opponents, so Su Xiao may not be able to cope. The monster rushed to attack our hero and exclaimed that they would now see what he could do. The guy was absolutely not afraid of anything, and shouted that he should attack him. Some people were worried and said that they could not watch his death. Others were glad that he would plunge into the world of strange conversations. They will see the long-awaited defeat of the Lun country. But suddenly golden chains appeared, which bound the otherworldly force. It noted that he had woken up after all. The mountain god stated that while he was there, the creature was not allowed to cause trouble and do whatever he wanted. The young man noted that it turned out that he had done everything right and only had to wait a little. But it's too early to relax. In the message, Claude said that in order to completely defeat it, it is necessary to get rid of the staff at the Dalo Hotel. Therefore, the guy exclaimed to the doll and the dog that they were urgently going there. The commentators did not understand what was happening because the mountain god had appeared. Then why did Su Xiao need to go to the hotel? Maybe something is happening there, and you just need to observe. Seeing the people from the hotel, the observer did not understand why there were so many of them and why they had changed in appearance. All visitors are servants of it. Perhaps they somehow learned about their master's battle with the mountain god and decided to go help. Without wasting any time, the young man ordered the doll and the Dark General to attack these drugged people. Commentators noted that the young man was a great guy and immediately found a way out of the situation. The guy remembered that Claude's note said that employees in red and white clothes are the main servants of it. They need to be eradicated first, but the people in gray can still be saved. so there is no point in killing them. After some time, the dog lay with a full belly, and the young man asked in surprise that she had really eaten absolutely everyone. Looking at the surviving people, the observers did not understand what was happening and why Sue was not doing anything to them. Perhaps there is something wrong with them. A message appeared, congratulating you on passing the test. It failed to take over his consciousness and turn him into its servant. The reward will be the blessings of the mountain god and his ring, which is a symbol of unyielding will. Meanwhile, Claude in the mountain temple rejoiced that he too had passed the test. So Bali is safe. He was congratulated for passing. The country of Loon receives 5 stars, and Bali 3 stars. The guy receives rewards, but earns a 10% reduction in stability. The young man did not understand what this nonsense was and why he earned a reduction. Why did the Lun country have an increase, but everything went down for them? Commentators noted that the awards were not very equal. Sue is great and has already completed the 4th test with 5 stars. 3 days later, our hero was again chosen as a candidate for the World of Strange Conversations, and he ended up at the Hen Shui Academy. It is famous for its rules and teaching methods. To become her student, you need to show good results. Teachers don't like students without a goal. If you don't listen to lectures and skip classes, you'll immediately be locked on a dark floor. It's better not to know what's there. Students should not notice the difference from them. You can't let it reveal itself. Players have 3 days to escape if they do not wish to remain there. There is one opportunity to get a hint from management. Our hero noted that he was already starting to get used to it. The note on the table contained new rules. Make sure your uniform is neat. Look at the board during class, even if the teacher is not writing anything. Don't show emotion. Remain calm in all situations. Don't look at the teacher. This will make him angry, and he will ask you to answer the question. If you see that your neighbor at your desk is playing around, tell the teacher. If a student asks to be escorted to the toilet, refuse. Before you go to the toilet, make sure that no one is there. If there are people there, then leave the place. There is no need to eat food in the canteen. Only the burger is edible. All the time you need to pretend that you are studying. Any book will do, except pornography. Academy students love to study. You need to match them. If a classmate suggests taking a break from studying, you should refuse. After class, immediately return to the dorm. If your classmates ask you to be on duty, refuse. The young man handed these rules to the Dark General and told him to eat them. When the dog became invisible, Sue wondered why it still had this skill. Commentators noted that this is not surprising. They are calm about our hero and think that nothing will happen to him. The young man began to dirty his clothes and decided that he would first break the first rule and then receive protection from the skill. Observers noted that Xiao is again preparing to play outside the rules and will strike very soon. Students who looked completely unkempt began to appear in the class. Observers noted that the first rule was wrong, and our hero immediately guessed it. It was interesting to see what the candidate from Japan was doing and how his affairs were going. A little later, the teacher came into the classroom and said that it was time to start the lesson. The board indicated that if they see what is written, then it's good. But if they don't, then don't worry, because she specifically uses red chalk. Our hero wondered if the teacher was really normal. It seems that everything will not be easy. People noted that the second rule says that you need to look at the board, even if the teacher is not writing anything. Also, the other students kept their eyes on Su Xiao. An inscription appeared on the board that the new kid in their class was meat. Therefore, it is necessary to ensure that he's responsible for his studies and closely follows the teacher. The students started laughing like zombies at the word meat. People became scared that they called him that. The students seemed not at all surprised that the color of the chalk changed so quickly. Their gazes looked somewhere into the distance. We need to see what happens next. The observers did not understand why Sue was always looking at the teacher because Rule 3 stated that he was not allowed to look at him. This will make him angry, and he will ask you to stand up to answer the question. Is he still not used to it? The teacher exclaimed, who was looking at her. Then she pointed her finger at the young man, told him to stand up and answer the question of what he would do if he met someone new. Smiling, the young man replied that he would politely shake his hand, and then he will cut it into several pieces and send it to the dining room as an addition to the main course. The teacher noted that this was a good answer, and everyone present began to applaud him. Observers noticed that it seemed that the guy sitting near the window felt ill and had very little time left. Meanwhile, the time has come for the Myanmar candidate to answer the question. The teacher asked what was served in the cafeteria at noon. The young man replied that it was meat. The woman asked whose meat it was. The guy stuttered and replied that he was new. Her face immediately distorted and said that the answer was wrong. This will be his meat, after which the students began to attack him and tear him apart. An alert appeared indicating that the participant was plunging into a world of strange conversations. People didn't understand how she knew he was new. Apparently, because he was very worried. After a series of answers, a break began in the lesson, where the students pretended to study by reading some books. Looking at them, the guy didn't understand why they were reading this. Should he really do it too? Observers noted that the 8th rule stated that one should not read books with pornographic content, which turns out to be incorrect. When the young man found this book in the table, observers wondered whether the contents there were appropriate. Another replied that if you don't follow the rules, it will be the end. How often do students read things like this in class? Seeing with what interest our hero began to look at this book, observers noted that he aroused their curiosity. But fortunately, they have better sights. Suddenly, Su Xiao's classmates turned to him and said that he felt sick to his stomach. Then he asked if he could walk him to the toilet. The young man replied that he could. The 5th rule stated that you should not talk to anyone, much less accompany them to the toilet, but the young man was not going to refuse. But then he changed his mind and apologized and said that he needed to go to class. The classmate replied that, okay, then another time. Our hero noted that if you look closely, you can see that the student's pupils are cloudy, but you can still see sparks in them. Perhaps he found out his identity and therefore asked to go with him. During the second lesson, the guy noted that one of the guys was so brave that he was reading a pornographic book in the middle of the lesson. The 4th rule said that if you see a neighbor on your desk playing around, then immediately inform the teacher. But since he can do everything, the young man is not going to report anything to anyone. Commentators noted that they knew that he would not denounce. The guy is the best candidate of all. Meanwhile, a representative from Japan, Dashao Maru, raised his hand and said that he had to inform the teacher that his neighbor was reading a pornographic book. Viewers noted that this player is very mean. The woman's face immediately contorted, and she said that he should have followed her explanations better and not read such nonsense. After the lesson, let him come to her office, and if he doesn't show up, then he himself knows perfectly well how this can all end. The neighbor on the desk hissed how he could pawn it. Commentators noted that it seems Daisho has come to an end, but nothing is completely clear yet. Perhaps the candidate will resort to his ability as a defense. Meanwhile, 11:40 struck, and everyone headed to the dining room for lunch. The 7th rule stated that you should not eat food in the canteen. Only a small burger is edible. The young man noted that he had never seen anything more disgusting. It was just terrible. The guy who stood behind him said that if there is no desire to eat it, then let him take something from vegetarian food. It's much safer. All this was said in a whisper. The guy didn't understand why he was worried about him and helping him. After Sue asked him this question, the young man replied that in fact he helped not only him, but also himself. If Xiao doesn't want to attract too much attention, then let him act like everyone else. It knows everything and watches his every move. Then the young man extended his hand and said that he thought he would not last long there, but was very glad to meet him. Our hero extended his hand to him and said that it was mutual. I thought to myself that he was a good person, but even if he made mistakes, his talent would not let him go to waste. People noted that they felt like something was going to happen. Our hero asked what he meant when he said he wouldn't last long there. The guy replied that since he entered there, it has been constantly watching him, affecting his emotions, willpower, and plunging him into deep despair. But the young man noticed that Xiao was different from the others, so maybe he would be able to get out of there alive. Our hero asked what it was. The new acquaintance immediately began to quickly prepare to leave. Then he asked for forgiveness and said that he could not talk for long, so he hoped that they would see each other tomorrow. After he left, our hero noticed that the guy left a note. Did he really want to warn him about something? It said that he was aware that Sue was new, but he wouldn't tell others about him. The guy noticed that if the teacher writes with red chalk on the blackboard, then others do not see. The teacher cannot be trusted. The young man does not understand how to get out of its tenacious hands. If he sees that his eyes have become the same as others, then he should just kill him. Sue noted that he is not yet completely under the influence of this academy, and the guy is right that the teacher should not be trusted. We need to understand exactly how it controls their consciousness. During a break, on the way to the toilet, our hero decided that he shouldn't stop reading. Observers noted that he even decided to take a book with him to the toilet. It was very interesting that he read this and wanted to buy the same for himself. The sixth rule was that before going to the toilet, you need to make sure that no one is there. If there are classmates inside who are looking at you with a terrible look, then you need to immediately leave the toilet. Noticing that the students were doing everything that was written in the rule, the commentators began to worry and asked Xiao to leave there as soon as possible. But having finished relieving himself, the young man slapped one of them in the face as hard as he could. The guy was taken aback by this act and did not understand why he was hit. After which, he asked why he was fighting. Our hero replied that it was nothing personal. This happened completely by accident. The victim's face began to distort, and the young man threateningly asked if he was new. And if so, then let him admit it. But the young man simply hit him again and told him not to talk nonsense. After which, he said goodbye and went on about his business. Commentators noted that he was very cool and showed everyone. It seems that now the students are clearly not laughing, and they are very scared. Then a classmate caught up with him and asked if he wanted to play basketball with her. Slamming the pornographic book shut, Sue replied that he agreed. But the ninth rule said that students love to learn. You need to try to match them. If someone offers to take a break from studying, play, or have fun, then you need to refuse. Observers noted that Xiao was once again going against the rules. He already seems to be used to this, because he has never followed it. When they arrived at the basketball court, the girl asked if he could play. The guy replied that it was quite a bit. The student said that in this case, let him first look at her performance. Viewers noted that she was funny, and even Sue was shocked. It was very funny that as soon as Xiao said that he didn't really know how to play, she immediately offered to watch her play. During a small demonstration, the guy was surprised what it was all about. Is this a basketball game? Everything just looks worse. When the jellyfish began to glow, our hero thought that watching the game could apparently have some effect. The book also began to glow. Perhaps it will help get rid of the pressure. It affects the brain under various conditions. A pornographic book can suppress influence, and the jellyfish will help with this. When the girl asked how he liked her game, the guy thought that it was not surprising that it did not have time to influence him. It's good that people are busy reading. Suddenly, the girl transformed and irritably asked why he did not answer the question he had just posed. The guy replied that her eyes were sparkling and that the game was very good. The guy isn't lying at all. The girl began to get angry again and advised her classmate to think carefully about his words. Our hero replied that in any case her game would not get better, so it was time for him to go. A classmate shouted loudly after him that he had made her very angry, so she would not leave a wet spot behind him. Our hero turned and said to think about it carefully, because if she kills him, the teacher will lock her on the dark floor. The girl was visibly frightened. Our hero noted that it seems he was right in his assumptions. None of the disciples will kill another. It won't allow this to happen. One of the rules said that teachers hate students who do not want to develop. Those who skip classes are locked on a dark floor. It's better not to know what's there. The guy noted that the dark floor is a place where not only ordinary students, but also players are punished. Meanwhile, Daisho Maru went to the toilet and loudly asked if anyone was there. People didn't understand what he was doing. Will it really continue to stand this way? Others noted that he was simply very afraid that someone would be there, and even felt a little sorry for him. When he decided that there was no one there and he could move on, observers noted that he was a coward and different from Sue. They will lose again because of this guy, and the Lun country will win. Then they saw that their classmates began to approach and the performance was about to begin. The guys started putting pressure on him and asking if he was new. Daisho tried to pretend that he didn't understand what they were talking about. His classmates decided that he thought they were fools. Maru objected that why should he lie? He's not new and has been sitting next to them all day today. Then the guys started kicking him and saying that he is number 6 in the table and is leaving because of him. They lost one guy today, whom he handed over to the teacher. So let this insect get what it deserves. Commentators noted that this is very funny. Our hero went into the toilet more decisively and was able to answer his classmates, but this candidate was not. Meanwhile, the teacher wrote on the board that if he is new, he will be able to see this text. Let him not rejoice. In any case, he will be discovered very soon. The young man noted that his desk neighbors seemed to have become the same as everyone else, but he would not kill him, since then everyone would know about his identity. When our hero realized that his desk neighbor had changed, other representatives also noticed it. The candidates read what exactly the teacher wrote, but did not really trust it yet. Maru ran into the office and asked the teacher for help, since he could not see the clue. He had an unremarkable B-level talent, so there was no escape for him. His management was very angry that he had framed his neighbor and believed the teacher. Where did such a stupid person come from in Japan? It is urgent to send him a hint. If they delay further, this will not end well. Having received Daisho's hint, he did not act rashly. The afternoon at the academy was fairly quiet, and none of the candidates dropped out. At 7:40 p.m., the teacher said to turn to page 45, but the students began to leave and talk about going back to the dorm and eating noodles. The young man noted that the teacher seemed to have big problems in her head. All the students left without her even noticing. Then a classmate approached our hero and said that he was on duty today, so he would have to stay late. But the 10th rule stated that after studying, you need to return to the dormitory. If the students tell you to be on duty, then you need to ignore it. The young man decided that maybe he still retained the remnants of his mind and wanted to remind him of something. He must stay in order to circumvent the rules and gain protection. Therefore, the young man thanked him for the reminder. The young man replied that he was welcome and added that it was time for him to go. The teacher said that she would come later and check everything. She hopes that the result will not disappoint her. The young man noticed that the bell for class sounded twice, and this seemed strange to him. He also noticed that the teacher left only when the second bell rang. But then he decided that all this was absolutely unimportant now, because first he had to find the clues that guy left. The new rules stated that the attendant must clean the classroom. Teachers always check this. While cleaning, watch the door. If something happens, then run. The yellow book has its own opinion. There is no need to take it outside the audience. You can trust the director. Danger can lurk not only at school, but also outside it. It's everywhere. Everyone in the school obeys him. You can trust the teacher. She will protect him. Some rules may be changed at its discretion. There is no need to neglect them. Our hero noted that he doesn't really believe in the point about the teacher. The 17th rule also seemed somehow strange, but the director was mentioned for the first time. The young man is not sure that this is true, but he thinks it contains the main key to passing. Suddenly, a black raven appeared, and commentators noted that Sue's gaze began to change. It seems to them that this bird somehow influenced him. It can influence students in any number of ways, and this is one of them. But fortunately, the jellyfish's amulet worked, and the guy ordered the dog to immediately rip out the feathers of this screaming bird. The Dark General immediately grabbed her with his long tentacles. The guy was surprised that this bird was really so weak. There seems to be absolutely nothing special about her. He then congratulated the dog on the fact that this was now his trophy. When the faithful assistant ate the raven, the guy noticed that he felt bad. Was this bird really poisoned? But when the dog jumped up and growled menacingly, the guy thought about the fact that she seemed to have taken over his body. Then it dawned on the young man that the Dark General had simply absorbed her abilities. The leadership of the Lun country noted that the changes in his body had once again undermined their knowledge of the strange. We need to write this down and classify the file. Sue has once again made a huge contribution to humanity. It is necessary to reward him when he returns. In the U.S. conference room, they were freaking out that all the honors had again gone to the Chinese. The man said that a meeting must be organized immediately to come up with countermeasures, otherwise they will lose. Meanwhile, other candidates, including Marcus from Africa, decided to stay and encountered strange birds. Fortunately, the young man managed to close the window. But unfortunately, this did not help. The guy grabbed his head, begging the raven to stop screaming. Commentators noted that a closed window is not able to muffle the cries of strange birds, and it seems that the guy has come to an end. The young man shouted that he did not want to die and that someone would save him as soon as possible. He didn't understand where this damn bird came from. Then the teacher's voice was heard, who said that she had come to check how he had cleaned up. Rule 17 said that she could be trusted and would help protect. Marcus thought that this bird disappeared as soon as the woman arrived. Is everything really as it says in the rule? The guy ran to the door and asked to wait a minute. Now he will open it for her. The teacher's face began to distort. Rule 11 stated that the attendant must clean the classroom. You should always remember that teachers check how a person cleaned up. But Rule 12 said that while cleaning you need to keep an eye on the door and not open it, even if something strange happens. You need to escape from the audience. The guy immediately caught himself and realized that it was not the teacher, but that strange bird trying to lure him out. The strange raven began to hit the window again, and the young man realized that in fact he had not disappeared anywhere. The teacher, meanwhile, said that she was here to help. This raven is about to break into the classroom and kill him. He doesn't have much time left, so let him open it. Marcus did not understand what to do because something strange was happening on both sides. She remembered the 14th rule, which said that the school principal can be trusted. In case of any danger, you need to go to his office and ask for help. It dawned on the guy that he needed to run out the back door and ask him for help. As soon as he approached the exit, a message appeared that Marcus began to plunge into a world of strange conversations. People did not understand what happened and why something swallowed him up. The last frame showed that there was no bird and there were no cracks on the window. The conclusion is that the bird and the teacher are hallucinations. They wanted to scare Marcus so that he would run out of the audience. When exactly the same thing happened to Pedro from the UK, the audience was convinced that this was exactly how it was. Claude from France and André from Canada received a message from the leadership of their countries and did not dare to leave the cabinet. But Xiao was in a completely different situation. The teacher said that she had come to help him deal with the bird, but was very glad that everything turned out to be okay. Our hero asked where she sees order here. There is no need to pretend, because she knows perfectly well that he is new. Now the guy understood why the bell rang twice. The students leave after the first one, but not the teacher. If a woman does this, then all the new ones will stay to check what she is going to do. The second calls a warning to her. Even the world of strangeness has its own rules, according to which the chosen ones must be given a chance to survive. That's why she leaves the class and makes up an excuse like checking the quality of the cleaning in order to get ready and come back. But in reality, she is in cahoots with that bird. The teacher transformed and said that she underestimated him. But does he really think that she is the only strange thing there? If so, then he is very naive. When the woman's body began to twist in different directions, commentators did not understand what was happening to her, and even her bones ached from such a sight. When she ran along the wall and ended up on the ceiling, the observers did not understand what it was. Is it really a humanoid spider? This is their first time seeing something like this. The guy calmly thanked her for the warning, but he knows very well that she is not at all the strangeness of this place, but just its pawn. When the woman rushed to attack him, screaming that she would silence him, the young man released the dark general in front of him. When a magical glow appeared around the creature, commentators noted that the dog had the ability to mentally attack. He is incredibly strong, and I just want to say that Xiao is invincible. When the dog began trying to devour the teacher, who was screaming to be let go, a bird appeared out of nowhere and rushed to her aid. The young man was surprised that it turned out that she could be resurrected, so he threw the doll to the aid of the Dark General. But as soon as the doll reached its target, the Black Raven simply disappeared into the air. Our hero noted that it was very strange that the doll did not catch the bird. It turns out it was just an illusion. Commentators marveled that he was the most powerful. Sue immediately realized that the teacher and the strange bird were one, and also that this was all a deception. Then the young man said that he was done with all his work in class, and it was time to return to the dorm. Xiao noted that the rules said that the yellow book should not be taken out of class, but he decided to rebel a little. But Rule 13 said that she has her own views and opinions, so you can't take her out of the classroom. Meanwhile, other candidates, including Claude and Andrea, were hiding in the classroom and did not intend to go anywhere. The strange bird and the teacher made some noise for a while, but then left. Both sighed with great relief and unanimously decided that it was necessary to turn to the academy staff for help. When the young man met one of them, he began to beg for help and say that he couldn't do this anymore. The man handed him a book that he had carefully kept for many years and said that it could not only suppress the influence of it, but also avoid it. When senior officials from other countries saw this, they quickly communicated this information to their candidates, but they did not see the school staff and were unable to obtain the key requisite. The little yellow book. The commentators didn't understand what was happening. Are there really those who are unworthy to see employees? Perhaps the workers are afraid that they are infected and therefore do not want to meet. By the way, Sue did not go to the director to see if he could get the book in another way. A message came up that the officer was previously a crow until his house was destroyed and his children were broken. At that very moment, hatred was born. Under the influence of it, the bird was consumed by rage and began to take revenge. The escape from the classroom was successful. Its rating is 3 stars. The young man was very interested in the fact that the dormitory and college classes are assessed separately. Did this mean that when he came to the dorm, a new strange story would begin? Of course, there were new rules, so it was worth taking a look at them. The room must be kept quiet. You can't talk to anyone. There should be 6 people in the room. If there are more, then you need to leave, wait, and come back. If the number has not changed, then repeat the procedure. If you notice that your neighbors are whispering, then you should not pay attention. Residents may fall asleep on the tables and cannot be woken up. There are no birds in the dorms. Don't open the curtains. If you are hungry, ask your comrades to take you to the dining room. If your neighbor is a sleepwalker, then wake him up. Otherwise, there will be trouble. The hostel keeps many secrets. The guy noted that these rules contradict each other. It is difficult to determine which one is correct. Rule 15 stated that the black room can be very dangerous, but inside it there is a way to leave the academy. From the emphasis on this room, we can conclude that this is a key place. Entering the room, the young man noticed that the last traces of reason in the eyes of his desk neighbor had simply disappeared. One of those present shook his hand and said that they would be roommates, so they should live in harmony. Su replied that this is what he does best. People pointed out that Xiao broke the first rule of the dorm, and now his neighbor will attack him.